At this point, I know you love shiny Pokemon. So today I have for you a 2-hour compilation of some of my absolute favorite videos featuring shiny Pokemon for you to enjoy. So enjoy! Today, I'm gonna become a shiny dragon gym leader in Pokemon Violet. That means I'm gonna be starting from the bottom and building the strongest team of dragons in the world to prove that once and for all, yes, shinies are stronger than normal Pokemon. And as if shiny hunting for a bunch of super powerful dragons wasn't hard enough, I'm also gonna be doing this challenge as a hardcore Nuzlocke with all kinds of ridiculous rules on top to make it even harder. Will we be able to become the strongest dragon trainer the world has ever seen and take the champion title as our own? Let's find out. We begin the game and choose our starter Quaxly, who wipes the floor with Nemona and Arven. Unfortunately, he isn't a shiny or dragon type, he's gotta go. So I make my way downtown, beat up some more bullies, and pass 4 years worth of grad school in a nanosecond. I was itching for a chance to ditch Johnny Bravo, so I set my sights on getting my first shiny over in Southwest Cortando. I wanted to catch a Gible, so I speed ran my way over to a mysterious cave nearby and made a sandwich. Because Gible is partially a ground type, I made the old Daddy Q special to boost the spawn rates for ground type Pokemon. If I really wanted to, I could also boost the rates for dragons with an avocado sandwich, but that would also increase the spawn rates for Bagon, and we don't want that because Bagons only spawn here at level 16. And that won't do because I was gonna fight Katie right after this, so of course the level cap was only 15. So I spent what felt like an eternity running back and forth between the caves doing the eye test of trying to actually see a shiny Gible, and eventually, after hours and hours of labor, I finally encountered our first shiny Dragon Boy. The mediocre ham sandwich had done its job, but I can't say the same for my Switch because it kinda crapped out here at the most crucial time, which effectively turned the game into a slideshow. But luckily we were able to snap a few pictures of the encounter. I may have been operating at the speed of a PowerPoint presentation, but I wasn't gonna let a little hardware get in the way of me and my sick bling. So I caught our first shiny like an absolute gigachat and nicknamed it Givra, which is the French word for wyvern. Don't ever try to say that I'm not cultured. And with our new friend, we left the cave. Now that we had our first member of Team Shiny, I sprinted over to fight the first gym leader, Katie, but not before abandoning our gross, disgusting, horrifying regular Quaxly. Normally in a ridiculously hard challenge like this one, I'd wait until I had at least 2 Pokemon to challenge a gym leader, especially given the fact that I had just spent so much time getting our first team member. Also considering that Dragon-type Pokemon are notoriously terrible in their early evolutions, but I had a little trick up my sleeve that had me feeling pretty confident. You see, at the little TM crafter at the little Pokemon Center over here, you can actually craft a little TM for a little move called Fire Fang, which our little friend Gible can actually learn. And the educated among you will know this move is super effective against Katie's bugs. To add to that, Gible actually has a pretty decent attack stat, all things considered. So I was feeling pretty confident that we should be able to cook Katie without any problems. And as soon as I get into the battle, I knew I placed my confidence in the right place. Gible 2-shots Nimble and Tarantula, only taking a little bit of damage in the process, but then Katie sends out her big, bad, terrifying ace, who may look cute and cuddly, but in reality is a horrible, destructive monster. Luckily, Gible's able to trade it out and take home the W against this little guy. And with Katie bowing to the absolute power of shiny Daddy Q, we pick up our first gym badge no problem. As we move on and continue our journey to become the shiniest dragon user in Pokemon history, we accidentally came across a shiny Scatterbug. Move out of the way! I name him Crime because it would be criminal to keep him, being that he's not a dragon type, and also because I'm wanted for tax fraud in 30 different countries, but we don't talk about that. Anyway, after that unfortunate use of shiny luck, we box Mr. Bugman and travel the open plains with none other than the Stony Cliff Titan in our crosshairs. Alright, this might seem crazy, but I was feeling lazy, so it's time to fight another boss with only a single Pokemon. Cloth's Rock Smashes were doing pretty good damage against our shiny boy, but luckily Gible recently learned Dig from the TM I got earlier, so he could avoid the 40-ton boulders easily. And like a proud parent in my kid's soccer game, I watch as my Gible uppercuts Mr. Krabs twice, ending phase 1 of the fight. After using Monster Reborn to heal Gible back to full, we challenge Stabbo Crabbo to another fight and take the dub with an assist from Arven. With the first Titan defeated and Herba Mystica acquired, I decided to try to catch another shiny before taking on the next gym leader, you know, just as a little bit of an insurance policy. I mean, it's not like I don't believe in you, Gible. I know you're capable of doing it, but hey, don't give me that look. Didn't mean it. Come on. Come back. Anyway, at this point I headed over to South Province Area 4 to get me a Goomy. After making my signature tomato, bell pepper, avocado, onion, and hamburger sandwich, we continue our hunt for the second member of Team Shiny, which basically means I proceeded to walk in circles more than a Gamer Rant article, and after a surprisingly short hunt, our shiny Goomy finally appeared. Alright, come to Papa. Wait, level 19? You have gotta be kidding me. The Pokemon that I just spent an eternity trying to get was completely unusable because Brassius has a level cap of 17. But we catch it anyway and nickname it Tarisk, which was fitting because in mythology, a Tarisk is a goofy, slow-moving lump of a dragon, just like Goomy. Unfortunately, our newest team member was over-leveled, meaning we'd have to take on the artist in residence with only a single Pokemon yet again. But the good thing was, I had another trick up my sleeve, and that trick was
the power of the sun.
At first, when I was thinking through it, I thought I'd just need really good RNG to get through this fight, but that's not really a strategy, now is it? So I put a little bit more thought into it until I had an idea. It turns out all I really needed was something to boost my attack, so I taught Gible our Sunny Day TM and headed into the fight. We take out Brassius' first Pokemon with a couple Fire Fangs, then proceed to set up the Sun against Smoliv to boost the damage of our Fire-type attacks for the rest of the fight. After one-shotting the tiny dumb little baby Olive with another Fire Fang, we face off against the huge menace that is Brassius' Sudowoodo. Not only is this thing a huge offensive threat with Rock-type attacks that we don't resist, and just generally high attack, but it's also a physical tank with a super high defense stat, so this was gonna be tough. One Fire Fang takes out about half of its HP as it goes for a Trailblaze, which boosts its speed and does pretty significant damage. Luckily, we resist this attack, but what we don't resist is its next move, Rock Throw, which puts me into cardiac arrest as it leaves us at just 1 HP. I hoped and prayed that I didn't get the 5% miss on our Fire Fang as we fired back on this turn, and today we have been blessed because the attack connects and secures our second gym badge. That was way too close. But with that victory, the level cap is raised, meaning we finally unlock our Goomy for the rest of the run. Welcome to the team. With our newest gelatinous friend joining the squad, we make our way over to challenge the Open Sky Titan, aka Big Bombardier. But to increase our chances against Twitter's former mascot, I needed to go get my hands on a very important TM, Rock Slide. To do this, I had to go over to a hill in East Province Area 3 and hit an insanely precise jump to another cliff, but luckily I'm a god gamer and hit it first try. The reason why I went all the way out of my way to go get this is because at this point our team consists of two tiny little balls of dragon, so we needed all the help we could get. We teach the Rock Slide TM to Gible, then head into the fight. Gible's able to tank through the first phase and take it out with a couple Rock Slides, then get big damage on the second phase, but it ends up being too low to risk, so we swap to Goomy, who tanks a Pluck as it switches in and clutches it out on 1 HP. Oh my goodness. At this point, all we need is for Arven to actually do something. Please, dear God, do not play us. Yes, Arven, yes! With 2 Titans under our belt, we decide to continue the shiny hunt for Big Lizard number 3, Dreepy. So I go find a nice peaceful spot by a lake where this little sneaky guy is known to hang out. As I began hunting, I alternated between Ghost-type sandwiches in the daytime and Dragon-type sandwiches at night to avoid any Mistrevises spawning while the sun was down. I also used a new spicy tech here to help me catch our third shiny boy. Picnic resetting. You see, when you open a picnic in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it resets the spawns in the area and allows you to generate new Pokemon in the area who have a chance of being shiny. This completely changes the game for shiny hunts. So by using this ancient technique combined with the power of an avocado hamburger sandwich, we're able to welcome our shiny Dreepy to the team in no time flat. We nickname this funny little guy Diplocaulus, then head on our way. Now, normally at this point, I'd start with Team Star, but to be honest, I wasn't even close to ready for Hakamo because unevolved dragon types are extremely trash. So instead, we continue the shiny dragon hunt, and this time, I wanted to get my hands on a Bagon. After I walked over to a mysterious cave in East Province Area 3 and made my signature dragon sandwich, I prepared myself to kinda break the game. So like usual, I set up and tore down my picnic over and over, but this time I decided to stand on a very specific tile in the cave. And when you stand on this specific tile in this specific cave after eating this specific sandwich, Bagon will start coming out of the walls like an army of ants. Huge shout out to KB Pokemon for this method, you should definitely check him out. Usually when you farm here, you have a chance of getting Bagons at level 17 to 28, but almost all of what I was getting were levels 25 to 28, so I thought I'd put my Bagon search on pause to look for a different shiny instead to avoid any accidental overleveled catches. So this time we decided to hit the open fields and hunt for Cyclizar. After a quick detour over to East Province 2, we find ourselves in the midst of a mass outbreak, and Cyclizars were absolutely everywhere, which after defeating 70 of the 100 mass outbreak Pokemon that spawn here, our shiny chances were elevated, and this hunt was really just a walk in the park. And before long, Team Shiny Dragon had its fourth member, Kristatus. With the powerful single evolution Cyclizar on the team, I almost had the confidence to take on the first Team Starbase. I say almost because before I could face Mr. Soprano, I needed to power up my Cyclizar just a little bit more. So I decided to head over and get the Hyper Voice TM, which is a very powerful special move that would be pretty effective against Hakamo. The issue is that the only Hyper Voice TM in the game is on the side of a mountain that is not normally accessible until later in the game. So if I wanted to actually get there, I had to get a little bit creative. But if you're experienced enough in this game, you'll know that anything is possible on Miraidon. You see, if you position your ride Pokemon so that he's facing backwards and hit the jump button right as you hit the ground, you can climb extremely steep cliffs without any issue. So by performing my movement glitch and making Summoning Salt proud, we're able to get our hands on Hyper Voice and teach it to Cyclizar. With my newest upgrades, I thought the fight would be a cinch, but it seemed I was in for an uphill battle because before we even got to Hakamo, we almost lost Gumi to the guards blocking the door. But eventually we're able to get inside, roleplay as an exterminator, and challenge the mob boss in residence to a 1v1. And finally, we're able to let Cyclizar off the leash, terrastalize it, and absolutely shred Hakamo's first Pokemon with a boosted Hyper Voice. The Terra Orb combined with Hyper Voice was doing insane damage. I was beginning to think it would be a Terra sweep and that this challenge would be easy, but I couldn't have been more wrong. No! What have I done? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our first death of this challenge. Thankfully, we're able to clean up Hakamo's lawnmower, but this loss was still devastating. This was a pretty big setback, but I wasn't gonna let it keep me down. So after boxing my Cyclizar, I taxi over to Levincia, where I completely decimate Nemona without even terrastalizing. Next, after getting past Iono's tier 3 subscribers, we head back to the Pokemon Center where, oh, Gibble's evolving. Our shiny boy had become even more shiny, but I couldn't waste a second because it was Iono time. We show off our newly evolved Guiver against her Wattrel and take the opportunity to boost our attack with the Swords Dance on the first turn. With our boosted stats, one super effective Rock Slide is enough to take out Tweety Bird. Next in is Luxio, who goes down to a Bulldoze despite dropping our attack with an Intimidate. From here, Iono sends in her Belly Bolt, who gets a little bit of damage on us as we terrastalize and go for another Swords Dance to bring our attack back up. Then we swiftly dispatch this round boy with a Bulldoze on our way to face Iono's ace. It was now a battle of shininess again, and I actually started to sweat against Miss Magis's Hex. It brought us low enough that I actually started to feel the pressure. But not to worry, on our very next turn, we cut through Miss Magis like she's freaking butter and finish out the fight. So now that we're done with our Twitch streamer arc, we return 5,000 feet underground to give the shiny Bagon hunt another go. I used the exact same strategy as before, picnic resetting while enjoying my $3 BLT avocado sandwich supreme, but the game was not going easy on me. At this point, I'd been here for hours and hours, and being that I still had quite a few bosses to completely obliterate, I decided to leave for the time being. I can't believe this. You're telling me that shinies are rare or something? Anyway, we meet back with our college professor in disguise who joins us for the next Team Star raid. After doing my best Clash of Clans impression, we come face to face with Mela, leader of Team Star's Firebase, who gets completely steamrolled by our shiny Gabite. After once again beating a raid boss with a single Pokemon, I try my luck again in the Bagon Cave, but guess what happened? I was either a complete idiot or my luck was just absolutely awful because I hunted for forever and still ended up with nothing. So yet again, I abandoned the cave and decided to take on another boss before wasting more time here. So I motorcycled down to the lurking Steel Titan nearby and gave him a go. Thanks to the Flamethrower TM that I was able to snag and teach to Gabite before this fight, this was a complete walk in the park. We even managed to remember that this guy is immune to ground type attacks and didn't waste any time healing him up. up. We spammed our way through the fight like a Korean fried rice, then it was time to head back to the cave, I guess. I was seriously getting frustrated at this point. Bagon just completely hated me and refused to spawn. I was even getting so bored that I started getting creative with my sandwich making skills, stacking all my ingredients on top of each other like it was freaking Jenga. And after a bunch more time spent hunting, we just didn't get the shiny. After so many hours spent waiting, I decided it was probably best to just get on with my life. So we headed towards the exit of the cave and wait. What is that? Shiny! Shiny! And just like that, we had finally caught our shiny Bagon. We nicknamed our new friend Mickey, and now we can finally move on. And Kofu's up next as far as gym leaders are concerned, but before we take him on, we level up Mickey until it evolves into a Shelgon, then we head in to take on Kofu. With the power of Dragon Terra type and a Swords Dance setup, I was able to get hard carried on the back of Gabite to another easy W, turning Mr. Seafood into a delicious stew in no time flat. Up next after Kofu is the Team Star Poison Base, which I personally think is the most difficult fight in the entire game, especially in a Nuzlocke like this one. So we make our preparations, then head in to fight Atticus. Thankfully, Shelgon was able to learn Dragon Dance, so we set up our attack and speed boost as we get hit by his Skuntank's Toxic. But our Pecha Berry cures our poison, allowing us to continue our setup. We go for a couple more Dragon Dances, then Terrastalize and smack this skunk with a couple Dragon Claws to take it out. But unfortunately, we end up getting poisoned by another Toxic along the way. From here, we're able to one-shot his Muck, then swap to Gabite as he brings in his little baby Revavroom. We take a couple Iron Heads, but end up taking this guy out with a single dig. Then finally, he's down to just his big boy Revavroom. We take a chance and set up a Swords Dance here, even though we're pretty low on HP, and that pays off big as we survive long enough to get a boosted, super effective dig on this big boy. Then on the next turn, whoo! Oh my god, that was close. And finally finish this big guy off with yet another dig. After running that quick, totally not sketchy errand over at Team Star's Poison Base, I prepare myself for the next shiny hunt. This time I'm looking for a shiny Axew, so I charged back over to the open fields with a picnic basket in hand and made myself another abomination of a sandwich, again boosting dragon type spawn rates. And I guess at this point my luck was turning around because this ended up being a super quick hunt, and in basically no time flat, we got ourselves another shiny. We nickname our new friend Jeremy, then we use our newfound powers to tear through Laria and Nemona. The shiny buff was unreal because we just ended up one-shotting everything with only Gabite. And as a delicious icing on top, my Gumi and Axew ended up evolving into a Sliggoo and a Fracture after this battle. After showing those wimps the wrath of shiny Daddy Q, I continue my adventure of becoming obscenely overpowered by flying up to Porto Morinda. This time, the shiny hunt continued with a search for a Noibat. So I picked up some ingredients at a store nearby, fast traveled to a cave, and made another sandwich to increase our chances of seeing a dragon, and eventually I was able to track down and catch a shiny Noibat, making my shiny team even stronger. After my spelunking escapade, I realize it's been a bit since my last gym battle, so I make my way over to fight Rhyme, the 6th gym leader. At this point, I wanted to keep my shiny streak going, so we wasted no time and slapped Rhyme with our super high attack combo of Gabite and Fracture. No, I mean we literally slapped her Pokemon, look. Those dark hands were way more than she could handle, so soon after we started, we were able to set our sights on our next shiny hunt, Dratini. I begin my great Dratini quest up on a mountain nearby, and after speedrunning to South Province Area 6 and locating the Sacred Dragon Pond, I set up another picnic like usual, and after using another Dragon Sandwich to boost me some spawns, I spend a decent chunk of time idling and looking before I find our next shiny boy. I name him after the Korean dragon Amugi, then after my newest friend Amugi shatters my expectations and evolves into a Dragonair, we go to celebrate this momentous occasion with another Titan Stomp. Out in the Asado Desert, we crush Phase 1 of Mr. Iron Treads, then during Phase 2, Arven's disgusting non-shiny Pokemon gets KO'd like a little wimp, so we have to carry the entire rest of the fight on our own. After taking the Dubsky against the Pokemon from the future, we get the Sour Herba Mystica, meaning at this point we're almost done with the Path of Titans. But I'm all about that grind, so I can't chill out for too long. After channeling my inner speedrunner, I make my way over to challenge the 7th gym leader, Tulip. But before we can continue the game, we're given a jump scare by Nemona, who wants to fight us again. I still got my shiny Drip though, so the battle wasn't that bad. I was a little scared though because Tarisk was getting absolutely hammered by her Ace Skeleton Villager's Torch songs, but at 19 HP, our resistance to its fire-type attacks comes in clutch, and we squeak out a win with Dragon Pulse. Next up is the actual gym battle against Tulip, who luckily for us wasn't nearly as hard as Nemona was. I used Gabite to completely dominate here, one-shotting basically everything in our path after setting up with, you guessed it, Swords Dances. As Pathra's psychic attacks were kinda concerning, but Gabite was just a complete baller, and we take our victory without having to sweat too much here. And you would not believe this, but we celebrate the penultimate gym leader's downfall with a triple evolution. What? Gabite evolves into Garchomp, Jeremy evolves into Haxorus, and Acelia evolves into Noivern. With this huge power spike, I decided to waste absolutely no time. Actually, wait, I decided to waste a bunch of time getting another shiny. This time I'm looking at the brand spankin' new Gen 9 pseudo-legendary dragon, Frigibax. So we make our way up to the North Pole and make ourselves some lunch, then picnic reset galore. I ended up making dozens of sandwiches just to catch this one Pokemon, spending more money on ingredients than I ever have in this run so far. It was absolutely crazy. After traversing the frozen wasteland for a very long time, Shiny Frigibax was finally added to our collection. I nickname him Tito, and with Frosty the Shiny Dragon Snowman officially part of the team, I go to get, another shiny. This time I wanted an Applin, and lucky for me, getting a shiny Applin isn't too hard, but it was gonna take a little bit more brain power than walking around with a $5 footlong. So to do this, I went to the Tagtree Thicket near Atticus's base and found a tree covered in graffiti. After that, I had to choose my tallest Pokemon to auto-battle so it could filter out all the gross, rotten Applins from the glorious shinies. So we used Dratini, who's able to actually target the Applins all the way up in the tree, and usually I'd have to make a sandwich here, but I still had a level 3 buff left over from farming Tito, so I could literally just AFK here for this hunt. It was fantastic. Huge shout out to Pandora Games for this method, by the way. After God knows how long spent apple farming, I actually don't know, I literally walked away and came back to a shiny, we finally get our next shiny Dragon Boy, who I nickname Hydrapple. Hydrapple is technically unobtainable in this run because it involves beating the base game to unlock the evolution, so I figured I might as well just pretend that I had a Hydrapple anyway. After I did a little EV training, Tito and my Apple Boy both evolved, which meant I was ready for the final gym leader in Pokemon Violet, Grusha. Even though we have the most powerful and impressive shiny Pokemon in the game, Garchomp, and he's basically been carrying us through every single fight if you've been paying attention, we couldn't use him against Grusha because it was just too risky against the Ice type. But luckily we had just added Tito to the team, who at least partially resists Ice type attacks, so we made our preparations, then headed into the fight, and my concerns were immediately validated as Frostmoth's bug buzzes started shredding Tito right at the start. But we managed to set up a Swords Dance, then one-shot Frostmoth with an Iron Head. From here we alternate Protect with Iron Head to get a little more healing from leftovers as we one-shot Beartic. Then we go for a little more attack boost against the Titan, which leads to an extremely close call with the Liquidation, but we don't talk about that. After surviving, we finally get to Mr. Edgelord's Altaria, who uses a Hurricane, and oh my god, I'm alive, Tito, you are insane! After surviving, we're able to give Altaria a taste of its own medicine and officially defeat the final gym leader in Pokemon Violet, earning us our last gym badge. After a celebratory evolution from our boys Dreepy, Goodra, and Shelgon, I realize I've been getting tunnel vision by only focusing on gym battles, so I decide to do another Team Star raid. But this time we have Ortega in our crosshairs. This is another super sketchy battle since Ortega specializes in fairy types, which were literally specifically put into the game because Dragon was too powerful back in the day. And I could definitely see why they put this in the game because look at how sick our dragons look destroying these fairy idiots. Anyway, we enter the battle and decide to give our newly evolved Goodra a chance to shine. In preparation for this fight, we ended up switching its Terra type over to Steel and teaching it Terra Blast to be able to take advantage of its resistance to fairy types and super effective attack. We blast our way through his first 3 Pokemon with a damage boost from our Life Orb, then take a massive hit from his Ace Revavroom. And that was way too risky for my taste, so we bring in Salamence, who drops its attack with an Intimidate. Then we're able to swap to Garchomp and battle through confusion to land a couple super effective poison jabs to just barely bring the fight home. Wow, that was certainly way tougher than I would have liked. After taking this little boy and his toy car to the junkyard, I continue my quest for world domination by fighting another G-rated crime lord. But not before taking a quick detour over to the Pokemon Center to evolve Imugi and Tito to their maxed out forms. With my newest power-up, it was time to take on the final Team Star member, Aerie. I hadn't really got a chance to use Mickey yet, so I gave him a chance to shine in this fight. After tanking a couple poison jabs from Toxicroak and spamming Dragon Dance until I dealt infinite damage, we defeat the last Team Star bully with a single shiny boy. At this point, I had a taste for blood, and I wanted to keep the boss rush going. So right after my victory against Miss Facepaint, I ran over to Castle Royal Lake to beat the final Titan Dondozo. Goodra's lightning was a perfect counter against Bubble Bass, and even in Phase 2, he couldn't do anything against me. So I finish out the fight with a couple giant laser beams and complete the Path of Titans like a shiny boss. I took some time to meditate on my successes after my great achievement and realized that I still wanted more. I didn't want to just be a shiny boss, I wanted to be a shiny god. So I began looking for the final Pokemon to complete my collection. A perfect cap to a Dragon Gym Leader's PC boxes, Tatsugiri. So I go back to my everlasting sandwich addiction, making the best Daddy Q special you've ever seen. And after finding a mass outbreak of these little fishes, it was only a matter of time before I awakened my full power. Before my very eyes, there it lay. Like a glorious hidden gem in a vast ocean of mediocrity. A beautiful flower in a vast desert of garbage. My sweet, sweet shiny boy. With our final shiny collected, I began mentally preparing myself for the final gauntlet of opponents that we would need to take on in this challenge, the Elite Four. These were a group of Paldea's best trainers, but if there was anyone who could best them, it's Shiny Daddy Q. It would be me, right? Yeah, me. Anyway, I make my way over to the job interview, pass with flying colors, and find myself face to face with none other than my first opponent, Rika. This time I thought I'd use my boy Hydrapple because Giga Drain is crazy good against her entire lineup. After going full vampire mode, I managed to one-shot Whiscash, Donphan, and Dugtrio, and after taking some decent damage from Camerupt, we managed to make it to Rika's ace. Lucky for me though, I'm still healing more than she can damage me, so after spamming Giga Drain a couple more times, we annihilate her Clodsire. Poppy the Toddler was my second opponent, so I go for Garchomp against Caparaja. The type advantage was absolutely carrying me here, and we get through the Metal Elephant turn uno. Next up was Corviknight, and we end up taking a little damage from Brave Bird, but I wasn't too worried because I had a Swords Dance Fire Fang combo up my sleeve. I use exactly the same strategy against Bronzong, knocking him out before he can freaking breathe, and we use Earthquake to crush Magnezone. Oh, what's that? You got your little bunny rabbit with a 40-ton hammer? Nope. After absolutely desecrating Poppy, next up was everyone's favorite depressed attorney, Larry. His lineup was going to be different than our gym battle earlier, so I had to be a little careful this time around. I decided it's time to show Shiny Goomy some love, so I send him out against Larry's Tropius, and our fire attacks burn Mr. Tree Dinosaur to a crisp. After taking out Altaria with the final flash from Dragon Ball Z, I swapped to Giver because Tarisk is starting to get pretty low. Just because I was extra nervous here, I used my Terra Orb on Garchomp, which was absolutely the right choice because we absolutely slapped Staraptor and Oricorio. Now we were finally up against the big CEO's ace, but he doesn't put up too much of a fight either because we end the fight on half HP. With Larry fired, we were up against Hassel, a fellow dragon trainer. I had to take this one more seriously than any other battle. I wasn't gonna get shown up by some ugly non-shinies. So after doing some off-camera calculations, my master plan was set into motion. He leads with Noivern and I lead with my ace Garchomp. The biggest risk here was if Noivern got a lucky crit on me. Luckily, I don't get one shot, but if I did, the run was completely in shambles. After my health is cut in half, I'm the one who lands a lucky crit, immediately putting me at an advantage. As soon as he brings out his dumb, not shiny apple, I terrastalize my Garchomp and use Dragon Claw one-shotting like usual. I do the same against Dragalge and Haxorus, and as soon as Mr. Dragon Wannabe sends out his ace, I show him what a real dragon looks like and shred through his strongest Pokemon like it's child's play. After asserting my dominance as the strongest dragon trainer in the region, I make my way over to take the champion's crown and officially become the strongest, shiniest dragon trainer the world has ever seen. We take the elevator up, and soon my ultimate foe was staring me right in the face. It was Tarisk versus his Pathra. Gita goes for a reflect like a noob against Gudra, so I decide to laser beam the giant chicken out of existence. Next up is Gita's Go-Goat, who almost kills Tarisk. I thought I was gonna straight up lose here, but shiny Daddy Q never runs away. So I doubled down, terastallizing my Gudra and hitting Gita's dumb goat with the burning embers of the underworld. I was not messing around anymore. I even managed to one-shot Avalugg on my next turn with a Terra Blast. Next turn, Veluza comes out, and I decide to give Tarisk a break, so I bring out Hydrapple. Liquidation barely does any damage at all, and after only a single Giga Drain, we make it to King Gambit. I hadn't really given Jeremy a chance to see much action up to this point, so I wanted to give my boy a shot. But oh my god, Jeremy, do not die on me! Woo! Yeah, that's right. Finally, Gita was on her last Pokemon Glimmora. With the strongest trainer in the region backed into a corner, I reminisced on my incredible journey so far and everything that it took to get us here. I mean, we were seriously strong, and it's thanks to all our Pokemon's hard work, except Quaxly, that we were able to get to this point. As I watched Gita finally release her ace, I figured the only fitting end to this was for me to release my own ace. The very first shiny I caught on my adventure. Go, Givra! After tanking Glimmora's super effective Dazzling Gleam, I realized I only had one more move before getting KO'd by a second attack. So I put everything I had into my next move. A move that would decide everything. And finally, the champion badge was mine. So after fighting the strongest trainers in the world with the power of shinies, I've proved once and for all that yes, shinies are better than normal Pokemon, and you can become a shiny dragon gym leader in Pokemon Violet. There are two things in Pokemon that I truly enjoy, and they might surprise you, or they might not. Who knows? I don't know you. The first is shiny Pokemon. Those little discolored rascals really get my goat going. And the second is the coolest type with the coolest Pokemon by far, the fire type. So today, in a shocking turn of events, I have decided to try to beat Pokemon Violet using only shiny fire type Pokemon. Will we be able to overcome the insurmountable obstacles that stand in the way of this goal? Only one way to find out. Let's get into it. So we wake up on this beautiful new day in Paldea, and we're given the usual choice of starter Pokemon, but there's no actual choice to be made here. Of course, I go with Fuecoco. He's the only fire type. Duh. Now I know, it's not a shiny. But don't worry, I'm gonna be using some mysterious witchcraft called the Masuda method to get a shiny one as soon as I can. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry, I'll explain it later. For now though, we just have to forge on with what we've got because it's our only choice. So we beat Nemona, saved Miraidon, got saved by Miraidon, lost to Nemona, but that's okay, and then headed up to the school gates. Along the way, we saved Penny from some Team Star grunts and learned about terastallizing, which as per our rules earlier, we won't be using in this run. Anyway, we attended our first day at the academy, and now it was finally time to get our first shiny. Now, I mentioned this earlier, but the way we're gonna get it is by using the Masuda method. By breeding two Pokemon that originate from different languages, we can boost the chance of hatching a shiny by up to 6 times in Pokemon Violet. Why this exists in the game and who discovered it, literally no idea, but I'm happy it does. In our case, we're gonna be importing a foreign language Ditto that we have and breeding it with our little Fuecoco. Now, don't get me wrong. This method does help out massively, but it still takes a ton of time. It's only a 1 in 683 chance to hatch a shiny after all, so I spent hours at this picnic table breeding Pokemon after Pokemon and waiting for them to hatch. I must have hatched at least a couple hundred of these little guys, but we did eventually get what we were looking for, our first glorious shiny party member. Look at that beautiful pink coat and that subtle off-white coloring, the tasteful thickness of it. Oh my god. Fuecoco's final evolution is Skeledirge, which is fire and ghost type, so I decided to name him Ace after Luffy's brother in One Piece. Ace can use fire attacks thanks to the Maramara no Mi, and the ghost works because, well, yeah. Now that we have our first fire shiny, the run has officially begun, and the first gym up is the Bug Gym, which we managed to absolutely demolish thanks to our type advantage. Thanks to this gym and some extra wild battles, Ace evolves into a Crocolore. Look at this Little derpy guy. He has little black gloves, so fresh, my god. Anyway, I wanted to head over to the first Titan battle, but along the way, I ran into a Capsicid. Now, I know, Capsicid is a grass type, but its evolution, Scovillain, is grass and fire type, and I just couldn't pass up on this rare combo. And yes, it's not shiny, but we can use the Masuda method again to breed an actual shiny one. And so we began the long and painful loop of breeding, hatching, and feeling disappointed that it's not shiny. This went on for hours, but we stuck it out and did eventually manage to get a shiny one. I immediately evolved him into Scovillain with a shiny Firestone and named him Todoroki because of his two-tone design. And at this point, I feel like I couldn't have gotten luckier because the first Titan, Klawf, is a rock type, which grass moves are super effective against. The first phase was super easy, only taking a couple hits to beat, but the second phase was a little more close. Todoroki was still outputting massive damage, but the Stony Titan was hitting back hard. We barely managed to scrape through thanks to the help of Arven Shelder, and we were left on just 9 HP. Whew! That was close, but at least it's done, and now it was time to take on the Grass Gym. As expected, the Grass Gym was super easy. Our type advantage carried us hard, and we took down most of the competition in one hit. Brassius didn't stand a chance. The next challenge was the Flying Titan Bombardier, which honestly wasn't that difficult either. The first phase we just powered through with Ace, and in the second we used Todoroki and the power of the sun to increase our speed and damage output massively. Sunny Day allowed us to outspeed the Titan and finish it off in just 2 hits. The next port of call was, Kofu jump scare. Okay, phew, he's running away. Good. I'm not so sure we can beat him right now with our 2 fire-type Pokemon. Oh, I'm back on screen again. What am I doing here? Oh, of course, it's to let you know about today's sponsor, Maribo Go. Maribo Go is the first truly free, PAL-like survival catching builder mobile game, and if that sounds like a mouthful of features, it is, but it really does deliver on all these things and more. This game is launching with over 100 pals you can catch and hang with while you explore the expansive world. As you can imagine, all these different pals have all kinds of different strengths, skills, abilities, and elements. And once you have your pals, you can use them to help you build up your base. You can assign pals out to gather resources, build structures, and do all kinds of menial labor for you. Once you've spent time building up your base, you can go out into the world and fight the fierce pal bosses. You can equip your pals with weapons that range all the way down from this simple wooden stick up to modern weaponry, which, gets a little crazy. And the absolute best part of this game is the multi-battle feature, where you can invite your friends to help you survive in the wild, take on bosses, and gather more resources, all together using the power of friendship. Maribo Go is launching globally on October 10th, and you can reserve it on the App Store and the Google Play Store today. And on your Windows PC! Click the link below and share it with your friends because this game is best enjoyed together. Thanks a lot to Maribo Go for sponsoring today's video. Now back to it. And as I was saying, the next place I wanted to go was the caves in the West Province. I wanted to try to find a female Salandit, as only the female can evolve into Salazzle, and having a poison fire Pokemon in our team could help out a ton going forward. The problem is, female Salandits are quite rare, only spawning 12.5% of the time, and I need it to be shiny. Yeah, this one took a long time. I arrived at the caves and I was happy to see that there were actually tons of Salandits, but every single one I ran into was a male. Look, there's another. Look, there's one, and another, and another, and another. I know it's only a 12.5% chance for a female, but I must have ran into hundreds of males before finding a female one. But eventually we did manage to find a shiny Salandit that's stuck in a wall. Why, game? Why must you do this to me? I bet it's a female one too. It even came so close to the wall. Why, Game Freak? Why? That is so painful. We then had to spend another lifetime in this area running back and forth finding mostly male Salandits and some non-shiny female ones. But then, in the darkest hour, just when we couldn't hold on for a second longer, the angels above smiled upon us and rewarded our hard work and perseverance. We had finally done it. After an incredible amount of hours of in-game searching, we have found the impossible. A shiny female Salandit. I honestly think that this amount of time was pretty lucky. We could have literally been here for weeks searching. But anyway, I decided to name her Mars after Sailor Mars, and I really hope hope she is worth all the trouble it took to get her. At least she looks super cool, so we can be happy about that, right? Now that we have a sizable team with decent type coverage, I wanted to start the takedown of Team Star, and the first to fall was Hakumo. Thanks to a super effective flamethrower, Pawniard was easy enough, then the power of the sun helped us with the giant Revavroom. Except when it didn't. Somehow Todoroki was still getting outsped. I mean, I guess it's a giant car, but come on! We have the power of the sun! Well, at least Ace was there to finish off the battle. With Hakumo down and out, we were once again challenged by Nemona, but this time we actually beat her. Todoroki just kinda blasts through everything that's thrown at him. Now at this point, next up was Iono and the Electric Gym. The two trainers that we have to beat for the Electric Gym were melted by Ace, and Iono stood no chance either. Her Wattrel was incinerated, Bellibolt cremated, Luxio ignited, and Miss Magus overestimated. And now that we have the Electric Gym badge, oh god! A wild Kofu. Oh, he's just talking to flowers. Okay. As I was saying, now it was time to take out another Team Star group, the Fire Group. Let's show them our fire burns stronger than the rest, shall we? Now, I knew this fight would be a tedious one. We don't have any moves that are effective against fire types in any way. So my strategy for this battle was to use Mud Slap as many times as I could to lower the enemy's accuracy and Snarl to lower their special attack. Thanks to this, I barely took any damage, and any damage I did take, I just healed by using leftovers. It was a slow battle, but we won in the end. And from here, the next fight was the Steel Titan Orthworm, which was kind of weird. I used Sunny Day to buff my moves, but then it also started to rain. Yeah, a weird combination, but luckily I still got the stat boost and managed to beat the worm. Good job, Scovillain. But now it was time. We can't avoid it any longer. We had to face our biggest enemy, Kofu, in the water gym. Here we go. The fight begins, and it's Todoroki versus Veluza. I use Sunny Day to buff my speed and attacks and hit it with a solar beam. Huh. Veluza goes down in one hit? Okay, that was easier than I thought. Next up is Wugtrail, which is once again hit with solar beam and... what? How is this happening? This was supposed to be a difficult fight. Crabominable. Also down in one hit? Okay, well, yeah. Cool. What I thought was going to be one of the hardest battles in the run turned out to be one of the easiest. We just kind of one-shot all of Kofu's Pokemon. Well, now that that's done, I wanted to evolve Mars into a Salazzle, since the next big challenge I wanted to attempt was the Poison Team Star. It only took a few wild Pokemon battles, but we did it. We now have a white, human-sized lizard. It's actually kind of terrifying. Yeah. Anyway, time to beat Poison Star Atticus. Unfortunately, Todoroki died immediately, but Mars was here and it was her time to shine. Skuntank tried to use Sucker Punch over and over against Mars, but it failed every time. Since I wasn't taking any damage, I used Nasty Plot to buff my attack, and once Sucker Punch ran out of PP, it was time to sweep. Skuntank, Revavroom, Muck, and the Starmobile were all incinerated. With Poison Star out of the way, I spent a few minutes fighting wild Pokemon to evolve yet another one of our team members. After reaching level 36, Crocalor was ready to evolve into his final form. Our little pink friend has finally become the machine of destruction he was always destined to be. Everyone, please welcome Skeledirge to the team. Look at him. The pink highlights look so cool, and it makes the fire stand out so much better. He's glowing. Literally. And at this point, it was time to put this beast into action by beating the normal gym. Larry's a homie, so I almost feel bad for him. Almost. But Kamala against Ace? It's almost laughable. Ha! Boom! Dead! Dunsparce gone. Staraptor destroyed. Ace soloed the entire fight. That's my boy. Of course, right afterwards, Nemona challenged us to a battle, and unfortunately, it didn't go all that well. I got pretty unlucky with Ace flinching, and with just 3 Pokemon against her 4, there wasn't much I could do. So with that in mind, I set out to try to get our next party member. There were tons of Fire-type Pokemon to choose from, but I decided I would try to get an OG. One of the strongest, one of the coolest, and one of of the most recognizable Pokemon ever. I wanted a Charizard. We spent a while just breeding and hatching, and at one point, I even tried to hatch a different Pokemon. Now, I won't spoil who that is just yet, but don't worry, we will get to that later. But as I was saying, with enough determination, I did eventually get what I was looking for. Ta-da! Yes, that is a shiny Charmander. I know it doesn't look that different. He's just yellow instead of orange, but that's okay because we evolved him, and there we go, shiny Charmeleon. Yeah, he doesn't look too different either, does he? Yellow instead of red again. But if we evolve him again, oh my god, he looks sick, as dark as the night, but as powerful as the sun. It's the main man himself, it's Charizard. The full black coat on him is so cool. It's like a Venom Charizard or something. I chose to name him Sabo after another one of Luffy's brothers. He has the same fire powers as Ace because Ace, lost them. I thought it'd be a good idea to Whoa, I'm stuck on a rock! What the heck, Miraidon? Watch where you're going. Anyway, up next was the Ghost Gym, and let me tell you, I do not envy them. Having to go up against the destroyers that are Todoroki and Sabo, I'd just hand the gym badge over if I were them. But props where it's due, Rhyme didn't give up. I mean, it wasn't close, but at least she didn't give up, right? Thanks for the badge, Rhyme, yoink! Then the Earth Titan Iron Treads tried to stop us, but Sabo is a natural counter to it, so, well, you can see how that went. We had a nice meal in a cave with Arven, but then it was straight on to the next gym battle against the psychic leader Tulip. Tulip started by throwing out Farigiraf, and I started with Sunny Day in the night. It doesn't make sense, I know, but thanks to the power of the sun, we pretty easily took down Tulip. Farigiraf got beamed, Gardevoir got burned, as Panther got sliced up, and Floor just got, lashed? Fire lashed. I don't know, she died, okay? After healing up, it was time for what you would think would be the easiest gym battle in the entire game, the Ice Gym. And it was. Since fire is super effective against ice, there's really not much to talk about here. I buffed myself with Sunny Day again, but honestly, I don't think it even mattered. Todoroki took out almost everything in one hit, and after the battle, we were graced with the presence of Geeta. Nemona was stood around looking shifty too, but what the heck? What's with that person behind Nemona? Why do they look like that? Someone's been mewing, huh? Anyway, for the fight with Fairy Team Star, I tried to use Nasty Plot with Mars, but yeah, that didn't work out. So I used Sunny Day with Todoroki and switched to Ace to take out Azumarill. Then I switched back to Todoroki against Darkspun and Wigglytuff and finished out the fight with Sabo. After that quick victory, I was ready to take on the final Titan, and this time, it was the Dragon Titan. Todoroki blasts through the imposter fish, and then the real deal reveals itself. The little sushi guy attacks with muddy water, and yowza, that's a lot of damage. What? Sabo is just barely hanging on, but even a super effective Dragon Claw barely does any damage against this little guy. Mars hits with a Dragon Pulse, but it's immediately returned at our buddy Greedent. I tried Dragon Pulse once again, and you have got to be kidding me! It's on 1 HP! What the heck? Fortunately, the sushi guy's Icy Wind doesn't do too much damage against us, and we're able to end the fight on a win. Now that we've beaten all of the Titans, I wanted to catch one more very specific Pokemon. We've got good type coverage so far with Fire, Ghost, Grass, Poison, and Flying, but there is one more Pokemon that lets us use electric attacks as well. That Pokemon is Rotom in heat form. So I took some time to ride around Levincia, and I actually got insanely lucky. It took basically no time at all to find a shiny Rotom. Still a long time relative to other things you can do in Pokemon, but a far cry from the time it took to get Salazzle. I used a Rotom catalog to turn it into an oven and named the little guy Rengoku. I'll admit, his little oven mitts look kind of weird. Look at him jiggle. But the pink-red kind of coloring does work more for a fire type than its original color. And now that we have our 5th teammate, it was time to beat the Fighting Team Star group. And this was so easy. Sabo obliterated them all. It was almost too easy. At this point, I was feeling super confident in my team, but we were getting pretty close to the final battles, so I wanted to play it safe and get a 6th and final party member. Now, I mentioned it earlier, but this entire time, since I got Sabo, I have been hatching egg after egg, trying to get a shiny version of our last Pokemon. I have spent hours hatching eggs throughout the back half of this playthrough while driving around, but I haven't managed to get it until now. Everybody, please welcome to the team, Chimchar. Side note, why are so many shiny Pokemon pink? What the heck is up with that? Anyway, Chimchar alone is great and all, but I'm gonna take it up to the next level and evolve him into Monferno and then into Infernape. We now have fighting type coverage, and look how crazy this dude looks. He is legitimately the true Monkey King. Let's hope he's as strong too. To test him out, I went up against Clavel, and boy, did he not disappoint. Infernape managed to take down Houndoom and Amoonguss with ease. The only thing that was a bit of a pain was the terrestrialized Quaquaval, but Rengoku came in clutch with a super effective discharge. With Clavel beat, we could now try our hand at becoming the best fire Pokemon trainer in Paldea by taking on none other than the Elite Four. The first of the Elite Four is Rika, and we're immediately hit with a bad matchup. Whiscash, a water type. It used Earth Power, but fortunately I didn't take much damage, and I hit it with a Solar Beam for an instant KO. Similarly, Donphan got beamed in one hit, and Dugtrio couldn't handle it either. At this point, Rika's getting her butt kicked, so she decides to send out Camerupt, but it doesn't really help all that much because Todoroki avoids its attack and counters with a devastating Solar Beam. Her final Pokemon was Clodsire, which manages to inflict poison on Todoroki. Rika hits again with an Earthquake, and our boy has finally fallen. It only took her 5 Pokemon to take it out. Nice work, Rika. Pretty quickly though, Sabo cleans up the rest of the fight with the flamethrower, and after reviving Todoroki, we're on to the second of the Elite Four, Poppy. We're immediately back to using our shiny Scovillain, and with the single flamethrower, Copperajah is down. But this little guy doesn't stop there. Boom! Corviknight is dead. Pow! Bronzong is dead. Ka-chow! Magnezone is, okay, that didn't do much damage. But Infernape brings it in for a close combat, and Kazam! Magnezone is dead! For some reason, Poppy thinks her last Pokemon can turn the tide of battle. She really thinks it's gonna take down all 6 of my Pokemon. Laughable. As you can imagine, we absolutely crush her dreams and her spirit by obliterating Tinkaton with a Flare Blitz. And so, the next fighter is our best bro, Larry. I'm sorry, little one, but this has to be done. I start this battle with Rengoku, and Tropius straight up combusts after we use Overheat. I then swap out to Ace, and silly Staraptor, close combat doesn't affect Skeledirge. We sing a fiery song, and Staraptor is down. Unfortunately, Altaria gets the better of Ace, but not to worry. Mars avenges Ace with interest. Altaria, Oricorio, and Flamigo are all taken out. And now we face the final member of the Elite Four, the Dragon Tamer Hassel. The battle starts, we buff ourselves with Nasty Plot. Oh god, Noivern nearly kills us. Mars successfully beats Noivern. Mars beats Dragogy. Mars beats Haxorus. Mars beats Flapple. Mars beats Baxcalibur. Mars beats... oh... they're all already dead, huh? Okay, well, that was Hassel, I guess. Alright, well, now it's time to go up against the best of the best. The top trainer in Paldea, the mean Queen Geeta. So we meet her on the roof, and Scovillain kinda just murders everything. Yeah. As Pather tries to reflect it, but I mean nothing is stopping a flamethrower. It burns right through and the turkey is cooked. The same goes for King Gambit, Avalugg, Veluza, Gogoat, and almost the final Pokemon, Glimmora. The Crystal Flower is left on just a sliver of HP, but it's enough to take out Todoroki. This little two-tone plant has been insane against the Elite Four and Geeta. Rest well, Todoroki. You've earned it. But now the fight is all but over, so I bring in Mars to finish off Glimmora. We are now the best Pokemon trainer in Paldea and have the right to open up our very own gym. But the challenge isn't over yet. There's still a few more loose ends we need to tie up, starting with our good buddy Arven. He wants us to prove we're ready to go down to Area Zero, so we go outside to show him that we're more than capable. I guess beating La Primera wasn't enough. Okay, well, let's get into it. The fight starts and Greedent dies. That was fast. Infernape tries to punch some rocks but can't quite break through and is taken out by an earthquake. Our champion Todoroki then manages to take out Garganacl, but Toedscruel's poison is too much to handle. Fortunately, Rengoku brings us back, taking down Toedscruel, Cloyster, and a lame non-shiny Scovillain. Take that, you imposter! Sadly, we now have to fight this good boy, so Sabo and Mars team up to put it down gently. At this point, we were now ready to head to Area Zero for the final battle of the video, but first, there were 2 more nuisances I had to deal with, starting with Penny and her horde of Eevees. Fortunately, this battle wasn't too bad, except for Jolteon. Screw Jolteon. I hate Jolteon. Infernape managed to beat both Umbreon and even Vaporeon without taking damage, but this little scumbag kept paralyzing my poor Pokemon. An absolute scallywag, I swear! A schmuck, if you will. Luckily, Ace survives a hit on 20 HP and blasts Jolteon away. Then Infernape takes out Flareon, burns through Leafeon, and sacrifices himself to win us the fight against Sylveon. So that's Penny and Team Star taken care of, but I did say there were 2 nuisances, not just 1. That's right, we still have our last battle with Nemona. Currently, the score is 2-1 in her favor, but who's really counting, right? It's me. I'm counting. So we're gonna change that right now. Here we go. Infernape versus Lycanroc. We hit with the speedy close combat, and Nemona's Wolf is already out of there. I try to use close combat again, but ooh, Earthworm barely hangs on. Unlucky for us. That's all she needs is we're hit with a huge earthquake that has us quaking in our boots. Not? Infernape may be down, but we still have plenty to take on this deviant. Sabo quickly disposes of Earthworm and buries Palmot too. We hit Goodra with the super effective Dragon Claw, but I mean, it doesn't do all that much. Somehow a bucket of muddy water does more damage to us and eventually takes Sabo out. Mars is up next, and Dragon Pulse easily gets us to the next enemy. For Dudunsparce, we switch out to Rengoku and hit it with a super damaging discharge. And finally, we have arrived at Nemona's ultimate Pokemon, a terastallized Meowscarada. And we're just here, a microwave oven with 1 HP and a dream. Rengoku uses Overheat, but it's not quite enough to one-shot the Cat Magician. Fortunately, though, it did do a ton of damage, and we still have plenty of healthy Pokemon. I switch back to Mars, and after one final Flamethrower, it's over. We've done it. Good fight, Nemona. Now, we're even. And finally, it was time to finish this thing once and for all. Area Zero is calling our name. Hello, Professor Turo, or should I say, Al Turo? The battle begins. Mars versus Iron Moth. We buff with Nasty Plot while Iron Moth attacks with Discharge. Oh goodness, that did a lot of damage. That's kind of scary. But no worries, go! Use Dragon Pulse! Not bad damage, but Iron Moth hits with another Discharge, and please no. Okay, 14 HP. One more Dragon Pulse. Go! Yes! Iron Moth is down. Come on, Mars, I believe in you. Dragon Pulse again. Boom, Iron Thorns is down, and Iron Bundle, and Iron Jugulus, and Iron Hands, and Iron Valiant. Wow. We really did just one-shot all of Turo's Pokemon except the first one. Huh. I was really worried there for a second. But we did it! We have beaten Pokemon Violet using only shiny fire Pokemon. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Till next time. You probably know Dark-type Pokemon for the edgelord, hardcore kind of thing that they got going on. But did you know that Dark-types also have some of the most magnificent, beautiful shinies in the world of Pokemon? Nah, I bet you didn't, but you just might soon, because today I'm gonna try to beat Pokemon Violet using only shiny Dark-type Pokemon. And as if spending hours upon hours shiny hunting for a single run wasn't enough, I'm also going to be adding a bunch of other rules on top just to make this that much more difficult. Can I become the ultimate Pokemon master using only shiny dark Pokemon? Well, let's find out. So we begin our journey like any other. We choose our starter, battle Nemona, feed Miraidon a sandwich, go through some spooky caves, help out Penny, and get through the first day in the academy. Now that the intro section is out of the way, we can start on the actual challenge. Since our starter Pokemon isn't a shiny dark type, we obviously need to replace it ASAP. So I decided to travel the Poco Path in the South Province to get our first party member. Now, this was a big moment. Our first Pokemon had to be something special. Should I go with a Zorora for the illusion? Or how about a Murkrow for the flying type? Or maybe even a Sandile so we could bring back Shadys? Well, they all seemed like good choices, but the one I decided to look for was a Houndour. So I headed into the caves that we just escaped from and spent the next few hours taking out my wrath on these little dogs for what they just did to me, while also looking for a shiny, of course. This is always the way it goes with these shiny videos. I plan out my strategy, build the perfect team, and then spend hours upon hours riding around a dark cave looking at thousands of little dogs. So if you want to see more of these shiny videos, I'm gonna need you to lend me your power by liking the video and subscribing, and if you do, I might just share a little bit of my own shiny luck with you as well. Oh, I can feel the energy rising already. Thank you for doing that. Okay, well, this genuinely took over 4 hours of in-game time riding around this cave. But I eventually did find what I was looking for. Look at that beautiful blue beast. Honestly, the darkness of the cave made it a little bit difficult to tell that it was even shiny, but once we get into the sunlight, oh, you guys will see how sick it looks. I named our first party member Azura, and now we could face off against Katie in the bug gym. Thanks to my genius choice in Pokemon, avoiding dark type's weakness to bugs, Azura had no problem steamrolling through Katie's party. Using Ember, I managed to one-shot both Nimble and Tarantula, and then finished off Teddiursa for an easy victory. But I know these fights aren't what you're here for, so let's get another shiny dark Pokemon already. For our next party member, I took some inspiration from our buddy Arvin and went looking for a Mastiff. But this time I thought I'd play it a little smarter. Instead of just bumbling around a dark cave, I would use the sunlight. So I headed north of Cortando to ride around, and oh my god, it's a shiny Mastiff! I'm just kidding, it wasn't that fast. I looked around for quite a bit, but we really did get incredibly lucky and found it surprisingly quickly. Our strategy eventually did fail because the sun faded into nighttime and that cool black fur almost blended into the darkness and made me miss it, but luckily after throwing a few Pokeballs at its face, we now have our second party member. I named our new friend Ken, and next up was the grass-type gym leader Brassius. With our fire-type Azura, I think you guys can imagine how this went for him. Petlil was up first and dead. Then Smoliv, and then wait, what? Sudowoodo actually took Azura down? And Ken is at 3 HP? What? Ugh, come on, Ken, use Bite, please? Okay. Whew. That was surprisingly close. I think I might need to level up my party a little. I was getting a little cocky there. And just to confirm that thought, Nemona challenges us to a battle which doesn't go so well. Even after terastallizing, Nemona's Rockruff gets the better of Azura, and Ken had to 1v3. He does pretty well, managing to take out Rockruff and Palmy despite getting paralyzed, but taking on 3 Pokemon alone is a lot to ask, so Ken goes down too. Lucky for us though, these battles don't matter at all. Get over it, Nemona. We'll just have to get our revenge later on. But with my loss fresh in my mind, I knew I had to strengthen up my party before facing the next gym. So I spent some time fighting wild Pokemon, and our Houndour was now ready to evolve. Oh yeah, look at that guy. Ooh, shiny Houndoom is amazing. But that's not all. I also wanted to catch another Pokemon since the next gym leader, Iono, has 4 Pokemon and I currently only have 2. Now, I did mention this particular one earlier, but the next dark shiny in my sights was a Sandile. Sandile is a dark ground type, so I thought it would be the perfect choice against Iono's electric party since ground is immune to electric attacks, of course. And so I traveled on over to the Asado Desert on my trusty steed and the search began. Of course, I looked up and down the desert for hours, hoping to find literally anything, a drop of water, a sandwich, anything other than these non-shiny Pokemon. Come on! Oh! I was here for a while, but I did eventually find that shiny Golden Croc. He kind of looks like a bee with that black and yellow color scheme, and I wonder if he likes jazz. Anyway, in reference to the Sword and Shield randomizer video I made a while back, which you should definitely check out, I named this little guy Shiny Shadies, and we were now on our way to the next gym. Unfortunately, even though we now had a ground type, I really struggled against Iono. On the first attempt, we managed to take out Wattrel, Bellibolt, and Luxio, but by that point I had already lost Azura and Shiny Shadies, and Ken just couldn't stand up against Iono's final Pokemon, Mismagius. On the second attempt, we did a little bit better and got to Mismagius with all of our Pokemon still alive, but then that stupid light bulb swept through us like it was nothing. The third attempt was basically the same, and so was the fourth and the 5th. At this point, I knew I couldn't just rely on good RNG. Something had to change. So it was time to start hunting for, yes, yet another shiny. Lucky for us, there's a spot right outside of the normal gym where we can find Bombardier during the day and Murkrow during the night. Both dark flying types, which would be helpful for gyms that aren't electric types. And also an extra body in the electric gym will be helpful too, even though, you know, we have a little bit of a weakness. It's fine. I might just be stalling right now because it took actual days to find a shiny here. I mean, in-game days, sure, but still, days. But after a few hours, we did manage to find a shiny Bombardier. I think. I mean, look at normal Bombardier here, and now look at this shiny one. There's barely any difference. One just has a gray beak. What do you mean? Well, I guess it doesn't matter anyway because she decided to use Whirlwind and ran away. Oh, hours. Hours wasted. Hours down the drain. Hey, no, I'm not crying. You're crying. I guess the hunt continues. Wait, why is this guy walking up the mountain like that? Sir? Sir? That's not okay. Okay, he's gone, thankfully. Anyway, a lot just happened in addition to me having to spend another 4 hours of my life in this area before my eyes were graced by the presence of my savior, a shiny Murkrow. And thankfully, that purple kind of magenta look is so much cooler than that stupid gray Bombardier. I'm glad it ran away. Okay? Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy I lost those hours. After throwing a couple great balls at it, I successfully caught this bird, and now we have our 4th Pokemon. I named this little guy Murky, and now it was time for the rematch with Iono. We have a much better chance now because not only do I have an extra Pokemon, but because it took so long to get Murkrow, my other Pokemon have leveled up quite a bit too. And boy, did that help. Even though she got paralyzed, Azura easily got through Wattrel and did a big chunk of damage to Bellibolt. Shiny Shadies then came in to finish it off and then buried Shinx too. Iono's last Pokemon put up a decent fight, but my boy Murky proved he is worthy of this party by finishing out the fight. That's another gym down, and the best thing about it is that Shiny Shadies was ready to evolve. And now we have a Krokorok, and his shades have been kind of turned into, what's the opposite of the shades? Suns? Shiny Sunnies. Yeah, moving on. I also spent a bit of time fighting some more wild Pokemon until Ken was ready to evolve too. Look at that mustache and her little eyebrows. What a silly girl. Anyway, but now that we powered up, it was time to face the water gym leader, Kofu. I passed the gym challenge and started out the fight with Ken since she is my tankiest Pokemon. After terastallizing, we easily blasted through Veluza, ate these weird worms, and prepared ourselves for the final Pokemon. Crabominable has a move called Crab Hammer, which at this point could easily one-shot most of my party. But that's exactly why I started with Ken. And despite the crab being super effective against us, Ken shows us just how much of a Giga Chad she is and tanks the first hit. She gets some good damage off, but unfortunately does go down to a Crab Hammer, but at this point it's too late. Murkrow sweeps in for an easy KO, and that's one more gym badge in the bag. Up next is our best bro Larry, and the fight begins with my Shiny Shadies versus his Kamala. I was a little worried about Larry using Slam, which could easily sweep through my team with this fast little bear, so I wanted to get Kamala out of the way as soon as possible. Unfortunately, we were put to sleep, but by some miracle, Kamala actually missed the first slam, so we managed to wake up in time and finish off the koala with a foul play. Shiny Shadies and Azura then fall to do Dunsparce, but Ken once again proves how much of a beast she is and carries us through the rest of the battle. What an absolute champ. Another gym badge got, and hey, Nemona? Oh, you're approaching me. Well, please don't. I'm not prepared. Yeah, I totally forgot this battle was a thing and didn't really strategize for it at all. So we do take another loss here, but as I said earlier, the battles with Nemona, they don't matter, man. They're all for pride. Who cares? We should really just get along, right? Anyway, after that battle was the moment we really power up. I'm talking leveling up, evolving, and even more party members, starting with evolving our coolest looking guy into a Krookodile. He may have lost the blue stripes, but look at those sick shades! Oh! God, I love Krookodile! He kind of looks like he belongs in a desert now, but don't worry, Krookodile, I'm never gonna run around and desert you. While out and about, I also managed to find a Duskstone, which I gave to Murky, and oh yeah, Honchkrow also looks so good. There sure are a lot of pink shiny Pokemon in this game. I wonder why. Speaking of pink shinies, I said I was gonna get another party member, and that's exactly what we're gonna do now. I knew the next two gyms weren't gonna be a problem since I have a huge type advantage, so I wanted to get something that would help against the Elite Four. Specifically, something that would be strong against dragon types. So I decided to go with Sneasel. Well, kind of. I did catch a Sneasel after many hours of looking, but I chose to immediately evolve it into a Weavile. And I am absolutely loving the Lisa Simpson hairstyle you got going on over there, Weavile. You're killing it, actually. If only your shiny was yellow, that would be hilarious. Anyway, I named her Weezer and got ready to face off against Rhyme. And yeah, as predicted, it was super easy since Rhyme is all about those ghost types and we're all about being super effective against all of them. Nemona tried to catch us off guard again, but this time, I was ready. Shiny Shadys hits with an Earthquake and boom, Lycanroc is down. Oh, hey Sliggoo, have an Earthquake! Pawmot, Earthquake. Skeledirge? I mean, you get the picture. Earthquake sweeps. And at this point, our hot streak continues because just like Rhyme, Tulip's psychic types are all super weak against my dark types. Another easy W. Next up is Grusha and her ice types, and I thought I should actually prepare for this a little. So I used a couple TMs to teach Azura some fire type moves, and this turned out to be pretty helpful, as you might guess. Equipped with Flamethrower and Fire Blast, Azura melts through Frostmoth and Beartic and almost takes out Satitan too. Unfortunately, Azura is taken out by a super effective Liquidation, but Weezer and Shiny Shadys are more than capable of cleaning up the rest of the fight. And that's all 8 gyms down, and now we're in the big leagues. Before heading off to fight the Elite Four, I thought it would be a good idea to get our final Pokemon and level up my party a little bit more. So after looking through a list of Dark-type Pokemon, I thought the best choice would be to go with Pawniard. If I can evolve it all the way up to a Kingambit, we'll have another strong as heck Pokemon that will also massively help against Hassel and Geeta. So I started looking around, and it took a few hours of riding around Area 2 of the Northern Province, but there he is, our final Pokemon. The dark blue actually suits the dark type so much better than the red typically does. And hey, she kind of matches Azura too. Of course I catch her and I decide to name her Sharpie, but we're not just gonna take a Pawniard into the Elite Four. So I evolved her once into a Bisharp and then again into a Kingambit, and oh my god, is this Pokemon awesome. Having a freaking samurai that is made of steel on your team? That's an amazing feeling. Oh, and the blue gi. Don't even get me started on the blue gi. Never mind. I'll be here all day. And now that we have a full party of dark type shinies, it was time to take the Elite Four down. Starting, of course, with Rika. My plan here was to use Azura's Solar Beam to sweep through Rika's whole team, but it turns out I'm a bit of a dum-dum because I completely forgot that Solar Beam needed a turn to charge up first. That's my mistake. Azura did manage to fight it out and get through Whiscash, but was left on just 1 HP against Donphan. I tried switching out to Shiny Shadys to try an Outrage sweep, but it didn't really work out. Fortunately, our new member Sharpie shows what she's got and blasts through Camerupt, Dugtrio, and Clodsire, finishing out the fight. Poppy is next in line, and this was quite a bit easier. Okay, maybe a lot easier. Azura absolutely decimated Poppy's entire team and didn't even get hit a single time. It wasn't even slightly close. The battle against Larry was pretty simple too. I didn't really have any plan for it. My team was just strong enough to power through. Ken finished out the fight with a big chomp, and that means we were ready to fight the Dragon Tamer Hassel. My plan here was to use Shiny Shadys and Outrage to burn through his entire team since Dragon type moves are super effective against Dragon types, and that worked out well against a whole single Pokemon. We took Noivern down, but Dragalge quickly turned it around for Hassel. My next genius strategy was to use Weezer and her Ice Spinner attack, which is also super effective against dragon types, and that also works well against one Pokemon. I mean, we actually got a bit unlucky here. Weezer only went down so fast because she got poisoned, and I can't hold that against her. But we still have plenty of powerful Pokemon left, so I sent out Azura, who finishes off Haxorus and burns through Flapple, and now the only enemy left was a Baxcalibur, and Ken once again shows what an absolute super mega ultra giga chad she is and wins the fight with an outrage. And now the Elite Four is done, and all that's left is Geeta on a rooftop for some reason. The fight starts with Murky versus Espathra, who both actually have super effective moves to use against each other. We both clash with our strongest moves, but I have the power of shinies on my side, and Espathra doesn't stand a chance. Geeta throws out, oh, cool, regular Kingambit. Embarrassing. Anyway, I swap out to Azura and take the Red Samurai out with a single Fire Blast, and there goes Avalugg. Veluza actually puts up a bit of a fight against Azura, but Sharpie slices through the fish with ease. Looks like sushi's back on the menu tonight, am I right? At this point, we are so close, and it's looking to be in our favor. Geeta has 2 Pokemon left, and we have 4. Go-Go puts up a decent fight, but using the power of his falling comrades, Sharpie once again powers on through. And at this point, Geeta is now on to her final Pokemon, her ace, Glamora. After being hit with an Earth Power, we do unfortunately lose Sharpie, but Shiny Shades comes in to deal massive damage, allowing Ken, the People's Champion, to finish out the fight and win us the title of the best Pokemon trainer in Paldea. That's right, by only using Dark-type Pokemon, we had become the strongest trainer in all of the land. And now, there was only one thing left to do. Get our long-awaited revenge on our rival Nemona. The stage is set, and on the battleground, it's Shiny Shades versus Lycanroc. After terastallizing on turn 1, we take out Lycanroc with an Earthquake, and then swap out to Ken against Goodra. Since Ken is a beast, she easily chomps through Goodra with an Outrage. Unfortunately, Disaster strikes and Pawmot gets the better of our champion, so Shiny Shades comes back in to avenge her. Pawmot gets buried, and then so does Dunsparce, and now it's a 5v2 with us heavily in the lead. But this is where it gets tricky. You'd never expect it to be so strong, but out of nowhere, Orthworm comes out swinging and takes out Azura, Sharpie, and Murky. What a huge blow to our team from the sweetest little worm. 3 of my Pokemon fall to this guy. But now there's only one final challenge that stands before us. Nemona's ace, Skeledirge. This is gonna be a close one. I only have Weezer left and a very weak Shiny Shades who is sitting on just 39 HP. Time to take a gamble. The plan is to use Weezer to chip away at Skeledirge as much as possible, and then hope and pray Shiny Shades can get the job done. I try to use Shadow Ball, but it barely even scratches this tanky Skeledirge. Nemona fires back with a Torch Song, and oh! 8 HP, that is rough. But there's not much else I can do at this point. I hit with another Shadow Ball for that extra tiny bit of damage before Weezer falls, and here we are. It's Shiny Shades' time to shine. Literally. Whoever attacks first wins. I take a deep breath, steady my hands, and focus. Shades. Use Earthquake. Boom! Our boy strikes first and Skeledirge goes down. Nemona is out of Pokemon and we have won. And with that, we can officially say, challenge complete. We have beaten Pokemon Violet using only shiny Dark-type Pokemon. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Till next time. What is the most underrated type in Pokemon? It's gotta be fairy types, right? You may not know this, but the second video I ever posted on this channel was a hardcore Nuzlocke with fairy types, and that was the first video that was actually successful, and it's probably the reason I'm still here over 3 years later. So in honor of my underrated heroes, today I'm gonna beat the entirety of Pokemon Violet using only shiny fairy types. And who could forget all these other rules I'm adding on top too to make things even harder. Yes, here I am once again torturing myself for your entertainment. Do these fairy types have more than just pretty looks? Let's find out. Starting off our journey, like always, we need to choose our starter. Now, none of these are fairy types, of course, and they're not shiny, so whatever I choose here will be replaced once I actually manage to catch a fairy type. With that in mind, I decided to go with Fuecoco because just look at his happy little face. How can I refuse that? You might as well be a fairy type with that little smile. But before we can just go out and catch what we need, there's a few things we need to get done first. Starting with you guys telling me which type you think is underrated. Let me know in the comments and maybe I'll do a challenge run with that type. But now we blast through the rest of the tutorial, and with that finished, we can actually catch our first fairy Pokemon and start this challenge for real. But this early in the game, our options are quite limited. We can't just travel out super far to find whichever Pokemon we want, so the one I decided to catch was Azurill. It's not the perfect choice, I know, but we can always catch more, better Pokemon later. Now I just need to spend a few hours looking for a shiny one. And oh boy, did this take a while. I knew they spawned here, but I still needed to look high and low for that green little blob. I mean, it doesn't help that I'm looking for something small and green in a field of grass. I probably ran past one without even seeing it. But it's okay because I never give up. And after a while of searching, I spotted it. And look at how adorable it is! After catching this cute little wrecking machine, I named her Gretel, and the run had officially begun. I spent some time trying to level Gretel up, but after a short while, I was interrupted by Nemona, who challenged us to another duel. And I got destroyed. My damaging moves are both water type, and against a grass type like Sprigatito, I stood no chance. I guess we're all tied up at 1-1 then, Nemona. I'll see you later. But seeing just how underpowered Gretel was right now, I started to worry about the first gym. So instead of rushing into it, I thought I'd catch another Pokemon to try to guarantee our victory. And as always, when shiny hunting, this took a ton more time, but I did eventually catch a shiny Tinkatink. And this one was just as hard to find as the Azurill. It didn't blend in or anything, but look at the difference between a normal Tinkatink and a shiny one. It's just the little gem and the hammer that's a different color. So it's pretty easy to miss. But anyway, we caught her and I named her Match Girl after the fairy tale of the same name. I think having this steel fairy type will help massively in the upcoming fights. Oh, and one more thing before we get into that, I started to do something called the Masuda method, which is where you increase your chances of hatching a shiny Pokemon by breeding them with a Pokemon from a different language of origin. But this takes a very long time, so while we wait, why don't you try to figure out what Pokemon we're planning on hatching from these eggs? The answer will become clear later in the video. Now that we had a couple fairy types with decent coverage, I spent a bit of time leveling them both up to level 15, and then it was time to take on our first gym leader. That, of course, is the bug gym leader, Katie. So I ran over to Cortando, got past the gym test with ease, and started my first officially sanctioned battle as a trainer. And our first foe? Nimble. I sent out precious little Gretel so I could use the super effective move Bounce, and this went perfectly. One hit and bang! Nimble was down. Out next was Tarantula, so I just used the same move, and yeah, down just as easy. And last but not least, we have Katie's ace, Teddiursa. Now, this one was the only one that proved a bit of a challenge, mostly due to the Terra transformation, but I had a plan. I lowered Teddiursa's attack as much as I could with Charm, then swapped out to Match Girl to just spam attacks. Match Girl in this form isn't very strong right now, so it took a while, but I just chipped away at it with Metal Claw. After about 6 Metal Claws, Teddiursa went down and we got our first gym batch. But even though we won, it was a pretty close fight, so we definitely need to get much stronger. And what better way to get stronger than by evolving our Pokemon? Fortunately, it didn't take very long at all, since Azurill only needs high friendship to evolve, and I'm so likable. So after increasing our friendship just a little bit, we now have a Marill. This should make the next fight quite a bit easier. And that next fight is against Klawf, the Stony Cliff Titan. The first phase was as easy as predicted. I used Charm to lower the crab's attack damage, then switched to Match Girl for more Metal Claws. It took a lot of hits, but overall it was pretty easy. For the second phase, we had Arven join us in the battle, and this made things even easier. A few more attacks and the first Titan was defeated. Now, before we rushed ahead to take on the Grass Gym, Tinkatink definitely needed a stronger attack, so I gained a couple more levels and taught her Swords Dance. This should speed things up quite a bit. Hey, Brassius, can you come down from there? We got a battle, please. Now, in this fight, I realized just how effective the strategy I've been using is. That strategy, of course, is to debuff the enemy with Charm, then wear them down with Tinkatink's attacks. And yeah, it's really effective. I used Bounce to get past Petlil, then lowered Smallow's attack with Charm, and look at how little damage this does now. Literally 1 HP. And once I buff my own damage with Swords Dance, there's nothing Brassius can do to stop us. And the same goes for Sudowoodo. To add insult to injury, I don't even utilize my boosted attack to finish off Sudowoodo. I just smack it with a Draining Kiss, which is of course a special attack, and boom! That's another gym badge in the book. After this battle, Gretel was on the verge of level 18, so I fought one more wild Pokemon, and Marill evolved into her final form, Azumarill. Now we have a little yellow ball of joy. No, it's not Pikachu. Stop thinking that. But anyway, up next is another Titan. It's the Open Sky Titan Bombardier. So let's see how our Charm strategy works out against it. Okay, his first attack did 30 damage, and after Charm he does 12, then 8, then 7. Yeah, this is gonna work just fine. After a few attacks, I swap to Match Girl, and the strategy works flawlessly. The first phase is over quickly, and the second phase is pretty much exactly the same. Another Titan down. So remember when I said I was hatching something special? Well, the time has finally come for our new shiny to hatch. Get your final predictions in now, because the new Pokemon joining our party is an Alolan Vulpix. And I know, there's not much difference, but trust me, that is in fact a shiny. And he's a male. Double rare! I named this little guy Kai after the main character in the Snow Queen, but didn't want to stop there. This guy needs to be even stronger. So I looked high and low for an Ice Stone to evolve Kai into a Ninetales. And look at how glorious he looks. Oh, that purple is perfect. Well, now that we've gotten an insane power-up, it's time to take on the first Team Star leader. The first, of course, being the Dark Star leader, Hakamo. And I did want to try beating Hakamo without using Kai, but unfortunately, I just couldn't do it. But once Kai did come out, the fight was a breeze. Take that, Hakamo! And I just want to take a second to revel in how strong we are at this point. It feels amazing. But it's not going to last long. It's the perfect way to feel as we head into maybe the most difficult fight in the game, the Electric Gym Leader Iono. So I traveled over to Lavencia, beat Where's Clavel, and started the battle. First up, it's Watrel versus Gretel, and you'll never guess what I did. I opened up the fight menu, had a good long think, and then chose Charm. Even with Watrel being super effective against us, after using Charm a few times, his attacks were doing just 12 damage. That is an insane debuff. But this time, instead of switching to Match Girl, I went with Kai for the Ninetales sweep. I buffed my special attack with Nasty Plot, and then Watrel, Bellibolt, Luxio, and Miss Magus all went down in a single hit. And that's while they barely did any damage to Kai. Who knew Fairy-type Pokemon were so strong? Well, I'll tell you who's about to find out. The next enemy in my path, the Fire Star leader, Mela. And for this, I thought I'd mix things up a bit and use a different strategy. I started by using Defense Curl instead of Charm. This was so I could use Rollout, which, if you don't know, doubles in power if you use Defense Curl first. Not to mention, it's a super effective move against Mela's fire types. And it does more damage the more times you use it in succession. It is giga effective. I used Rollout and Okay, that wasn't a crazy amount of damage, but I used it again, and boom! That's more like it. Torkoal is down, and the rollout continues, and bang! The Starmobile is down in just one hit. Azrael, you are a beast! Alright, now that Mela is beat, I wanted to channel my inner Aaron and take down another Titan. And the next one on the list was the Lurking Steel Titan, Earthworm. This one is a little bit scary because Steel is super effective against Fairy, but we pushed our fear deep down and headed in against our most powerful foe yet. The first phase of the fight was pretty close, actually. My big worry was relying on the same moveset over and over, so instead I chose to start with Match Girl. I did still buff my attack with Swords Dance, but then I chose to attack with Rock Smash, and it did a reasonable amount of damage. That was until Earthworm used Iron Tail, which, destroyed me. I tried using Aqua Tail with Greta, but unfortunately I only managed to get one hit off before fainting. The fight was really close at this point as I threw up my last Pokemon Kai. Fortunately, a couple Ice Beams was enough to get us to the second phase. After healing up my party and tracking the worm down again, the second phase began. Luckily for us though, right before the fight started, rain came pouring down as if it was a gift from the gods. Thanks to the rain, all I really needed to win this battle was a Azumarill. Arvin tried his best to help, but it really wasn't needed. Aqua Tail did a huge amount of damage, and it only took us a couple of turns to take the win. We've been on quite the streak of just rolling up to a battle and destroying whoever we were facing, so I thought now would be a good time to take a quick break from the fights and catch ourselves another Pokemon. A decision I would soon regret because I forgot just how long it takes to catch one of these shiny things. Though, to be fair, that sweet, sweet dopamine hit you get from seeing a shiny after running in circles for hours is unmatched. And the shiny I was looking for this time was Ralts. At least this one stands out more than the others, a blue head in a field of grass. Nice. I chose to name this little fella Edward after the character in The Enchanted Prince, but I wasn't done yet. Ralts wouldn't make much of a difference in our battles at this point, so I decided to evolve it into a Kirlia, and then the game crashed. And I just really hoped that I had saved after catching the Ralts. Oh, thank God. Okay, let's try that again. There we go, Kirlia. But then I thought, what the heck? Why not just go straight to Gardevoir? So after grinding out some more wild Pokemon and reaching level 30, we now have Edward, the blue Gardevoir. So much aura, so much power. Let's try this new power out on Kofu, the water gym leader. Starting with Match Girl versus Veluza. After we both break the mold, I do the classic and start by using Swords Dance. Thanks to this buff, we actually have a super close battle with Veluza. My Brutal Swing and his Aqua Cutter do very similar damage, so the fight is mostly decided by who hits first. And fortunately, Match Girl is faster. So Veluza goes down and Wugtrio comes out. I also decide to swap to Gretel since Match Girl is in the red, and thus begins the most annoying part of this fight. Wugtrio can't do much damage to Gretel, but it can cause us to flinch, which we do. Over and over and over. Like, seriously, I tried to use Rollout, which would have given us such an easy win, but Gretel flinches twice and Edward flinches twice too. What is going on? Not being able to do anything as the Sandstorm slowly wears me down is so infuriating. Thankfully, the Sandstorm also hurts Wugtrio, and Kai is able to get the finishing attack off. Kofu's final Pokemon is Crabominable, but this ends up being a way easier matchup as Dazzling Gleam does some crazy damage. 2 hits later, and we have yet another gym badge. Alright, let's catch another Pokemon. I've had my eye on one Pokemon in particular that I never really use, but I think is super cool. And this fairy only run is the perfect excuse to finally use it. The Pokemon in question is, of course, Mimikyu. Thankfully, this one didn't take as long to find as some of the others. I mean, it still took a while, but at least it wasn't multiple days. I got pretty lucky when I found this desaturated boy and decided to name her Izzy. Now, of course, we need to test her out. The perfect test came in the form of the Poison Star leader, Atticus. Now, Poison is super effective against fairy types, and this is usually a pretty tough fight even outside of that, so I was pretty worried here. But I spent a ton of time preparing and started off with the usual strategy of buffing myself for a few turns, and Skuntank just basically lets me do this while it tries to go for Sucker Punch over and over again, which of course, since we're not attacking, doesn't work. Once I'm done buffing, the Metal Claws come out and Skuntank goes down in 2. Next to fall is this tiny little Revavroom. Then I swap to Gretel so I can use Aqua Tail, but this doesn't work out well at all. Turns out this Revavroom got hands. Okay, Match Girl, you're up again. I expected Tinkatuff to fall quite quickly here, but I actually got incredibly lucky, and Match Girl toughs out what would be a killing blow twice, then avoids an attack. If I was Atticus, I would be absolutely raging. Somehow, Match Girl wears down the Revavroom, and Atticus is forced to send out Muck. I wince as Muck shoots out a Mud Slap towards Match Girl, but she still lives? And then again? She must be the chosen one. Dude, what is this plot armor, dude? After that impressive display and holding on much longer than she should have, Match Girl does eventually go down, and Izzy is left to finish off Muck. With Muck defeated, all Atticus has left is the Starmobile, which Edward and Kai team up to take down. Whew. If I hadn't put the time into finding Izzy before this fight, I probably would have lost there. Anyway, now it's time for the normal gym. And there's not much to say here, it was a pretty normal fight. I started by using Bulk Up with Izzy, and thanks to Disguise, Kamala just used Yawn over and over again, which doesn't work when the Disguise is still up. With Mimikyu massively buffed, there's not much Larry could do to stop us. Leech Life beat Kamala in 1, Dunsparce in 2, and Staraptor in another 2. All while Izzy healed up and took just 10 HP of damage total. Talk about a sweep. We were then challenged to a rematch by Nemona, and so I used a very similar tactic. Bulk up with, well, bulk up. Then shred through her Pokemon with Leech Life. Lycanroc went down easy, followed by Palmo, then Goomy, and finally Meowscarada. Once Nemona was defeated, again, I realized Tinkatuff was super close to evolving, so I battled a few wild Pokemon and got myself a Tinkaton. Our next battle was up in the mountain town of Montenevera. Rhyme invited us with open arms and the 2v2 battle began. First off, we had to get past Mimikyu and Banette. Since I'm not an AI, I actually know what moves will work on Mimikyu, so Kai and Gretel shouldn't have too much of a problem here. But first, I start by getting rid of Banette. One Dazzling Gleam and Aqua Tail is all it takes. Out next was Houndstone, which I almost beat straight away, but it used Phantom Force to avoid my attacks. With Houndstone temporarily invincible, I instead focused on Mimikyu, and one Ice Beam took it down with ease. Houndstone reappeared and almost beat Gretel, but she survived on 2 HP and got revenge on the dog with the Play Rough. Rhyme's last Pokemon was Toxtricity, and I still had all 5 of mine. It's not like I needed them though, because Toxtricity kept getting frozen after being hit with an Ice Beam, which, I mean, look at the way that it looks in that Ice Cube. That looks so uncomfortable. Anyway, one final hit from Match Girl and the Ghost Gym was done. We only have a couple gyms left now, but first, let's take on another Titan. That's right, our next battle is with the Quaking Earth Titan Iron Treads. And well, it's a ground type, and we have a water type. Yeah, Gretel destroys both phases, no problem. Alright, at this point, it was time to get our final fairy Pokemon. But don't worry, I don't need to actually go out and find it, because I've secretly been trying to hatch one this whole time. I've opened tons of eggs trying to get a shiny Eevee, and eventually I finally hatched one, which I named Eliza. Now, I know what you're thinking. Eevee isn't a fairy type, and that's true. But one of its evolutions is. So after teaching it Baby Doll Eyes and leveling it up, we now have a shiny Sylveon. And that is a full party. So let's test it out on the Psychic Gym. Or at least let's prove how busted Mimikyu can be. Thanks to Disguise and the not so intelligent artificial intelligence in Pokemon, I'm able to use Bulk Up as many times as I want, while Farigiraf doesn't really do much. I do start taking damage eventually, so I'm forced to hit back, but at that point, I'm already buffed to the stars. Farigiraf's attacks barely do any damage, and Leech Life one-shots literally everything, as Pathra, Gardevoir, and Florges can do nothing to stop this train. So considering we had just steamrolled through Tulip's whole party with just one Pokemon, I think we're fine to go straight ahead to the final gym. That, of course, being the Ice Gym and its leader, Grusha. Now, my plan here was to go for another sweep, but this time with Edward. I wanted to buff with Calm Mind and then destroy Grusha's party with Mystical Fire. And it almost works. We get past Frostmoth, but then, unfortunately, we get outsped by Beartic and Edward faints. If we had higher speed, there is a very good chance that we one-shot everything here, but it's okay. A quick switch to Match Girl and we're back on track. After buffing with Swords Dance, Tinkaton's Gigaton Hammer is just as effective. Beartic gets squished, then Cetitan, and then of course Altaria. And that's all 8 gym badges got. But before we rush into the Elite Four, there's a few more pests we have to deal with. Starting with another Team Star group, the Fairy Star. Fairy versus Fairy should be fairly interesting. Anyway, I start with Match Girl because Gigaton Hammer is an insanely powerful move that of course is super effective against fairy types. I buff my attack, but honestly, maybe I didn't need to. 1 Gigaton Hammer use and the enemy Azumarill is down. Gigaton Hammer does have a 1-turn cooldown, so every other turn I use Protect, and this just kind of worked flawlessly. Wigglytuff came out, so I just used Protect and then Gigaton Hammer, then Darkspun, and I did the same thing. Then the Starmobile, and you guessed it, another one-shot. Honestly, to one-shot a Starmobile is pretty insane, especially the second to last one. That move is kinda busted. Now that we've asserted our fairy dominance, let's take on the final Titan. First, we have to beat Dondozo, the false Titan, but that's nothing Izzy and Kai can't handle. I use a super effective Wood Hammer and Dazzling Gleam until the big fish flees. Then I heal my Pokemon up and follow the false dragon to face the second phase. Izzy goes out first once again, and I basically use the same moves. Wood Hammer is super effective, why wouldn't I? And with Dondozo defeated, the true Dragon Titan reveals itself to actually be a Tatsugiri. And honestly, it's not much of a challenge. Fairy destroys Dragon, so, you know. Arven's Greedent does get the final hit in, and now we're ready to face the final Team Star group. And unlucky for them, their last line of defense is the Fighting type team, and yes, Fairy is also super effective against fighting types. I don't really like to spoil how a fight goes before its conclusion, but come on. I wasn't gonna lose this one. But for a bit of a change of pace, I decided to use Eliza. Annihilape's close combat didn't do much damage, obviously, and my Draining Kiss just blasted right through them. Passimian was the same, and Lucario, and then same for the Starmobile. Honestly, that was pretty satisfying, I'm not gonna lie. To fight something that my entire party was strong against is pretty fun. I can't deny it, you know? Anyway, now that we've tied up all the loose ends, we can finally advance into the big leagues. That's right, it's time to face the Elite Four. Oh, what the heck, Clavel? What are you doing here, dude? I thought you were Clive. Get out of the way, I don't want to... Fine, I'll fight you. I gotta be honest, after our recent monkey-only challenge in Pokemon Shield, Oranguru definitely scares me a little bit. He was an absolute beast in that video, but we gotta see what Gardevoir can do against him. As always, I start by buffing both my defense and offense with Calm Mind. Oranguru hits with a Foul Play, but it doesn't do that much damage, so we're good for now. After a few more turns of buffing, Oranguru tries to put us to sleep, but I planned ahead, and I knew this could happen, so I gave him a Chesto Berry, which wakes him up, and now that Edward is powered up from the Calm Mind, I go ahead and select Draining Kiss, and yeah, we did it. The fight is basically over. Oranguru goes down, then Houndoom and Poltergeist, and same with the rest of Clavel's party. It also helps a ton that Draining Kiss heals us, so we're basically fresh against every new Pokemon. This tactic has basically held us up through this whole run, so let's see if it works on Rika too. For this fight, I start with Kai, since Ice moves will be super effective against Rika's team of ground types. I just need to make sure that Kai stays alive. First, I made it snow to buff my moves, then I used Aurora Veil to protect me from special attacks, and I started blasting. Oh my god, Camerupt just did so much damage. Oh, and Donphan survived the Ice Beam with Sturdy. What the heck? Okay, so Kai goes down, but we should still be okay, I think. We still have Tinkaton, who has some super powerful moves, and Dugtrio just beat her. The Elite Four is already putting up much more of a fight than I thought they would. Okay, let's try our OG, Gretel. There we go, one Aqua Tail and Dugtrio is down. Rika only has Clodsire left now, so we should be good. And after a couple more play roughs, boom, we did it! Rika is done! Alright, Poppy, get in here, you're next. So, Poppy is a Steel-type trainer, which, you know, is the other super effective type against Fairy, but luckily for us, these Pokemon are more defensive-oriented, so hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. But we'll find out. First off, we have to get past Caparaja. And since I'm a Pokemon genius that thinks 10 steps ahead of my opponents, I taught Gretel the fighting move Superpower. One hit from this, and the elephant is retired. Next up is Magnezone, and this one is much more even. I hit with Aqua Tail and Superpower while Magnezone uses Discharge. Since the magnet is somehow faster than us and it does a ton of damage, Gretel ends up feigning. But that's not a problem because Magnezone is left on just 1 HP, so a quick play rough from Izzy and we're once again pulling ahead. Bronzong is next, so I spend a couple of turns bulking up, and after almost dying myself, I switched to Shadow Claw to dish out some serious damage. Corviknight also went down pretty quickly after just 2 Shadow Claws, and now Poppy is down to her last Pokemon. And this one was a bit of a pain. I tried to stick to using super effective moves, but Tinkaton is strong. Mimikyu goes down, and then Edward gets one shot, but thankfully I have a Tinkaton of my own, and Match Girl is so much better than Poppy's. Just look at her. Look at her. It's embarrassing. Regular Pokemon? Anyway, 2 hits later and Poppy is defeated. And now it's on to the third member, Larry. My strategy here was basically to annoy Larry as much as possible. Every time he tried to make it sunny, I would make it snow. So Solar Beam would take longer to charge up. Every chance I got, I buffed Kai, and after enough turns, I brought the damage. Ice Beam! Go! One shot, easy. Then the same for Altaria, Staraptor, Oricorio, and Flamigo. Yep, that one was a lot easier than Poppy. And the same can be said for Hassel as well. Super Fang was pretty scary, but Hassel is a dragon tamer, and dragons are pretty weak to fairy types. So there was no world where I was losing this battle. I just buffed Edward with Calm Mind and then destroyed his entire party. And that's the Elite Four finished. Next up is the champion Geeta. As usual, Geeta throws out his Pathra, and I start with the buffs. I make it rain, then use Aqua Tail to take out Geeta's first Pokemon. Next out is Gogoat, and I'm ready to swap out Gretel, but if I do that now, the Pokemon I swap to will take the hit. So instead, I chose to let Gretel faint so I could get a free switch. But Gretel doesn't give in that easily. She actually toughs out one last attack and returns with a superpower, and it's like free damage, man. That rules. After taking one more hit, I swap to Match Girl to deal with Gogoat after buffing up, of course. I hit with Play Rough, and there we go. Avalugg and Veluza don't last long either, and they each fall to just one more attack. But Kingambit is where problems start to arise. I'm immediately hit with a massive crit and left in the red, and my attack missed. And that is just so unfair. Thankfully, my second attack went through and Kingambit falls. But Geeta's final Pokemon doesn't make things any easier. Once Glimmora is powered up, they use Earth Power and Match Girl is forced to come back. Luckily, Izzy still had Wood Hammer equipped, so a couple hits from that, and we take the W. We're technically the best trainer in Paldea now, but there's no time to celebrate. There's still a lot we need to deal with. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you know the next person to challenge us is Arven. He wants to make sure we're ready to go to Area 0 with him, so we have a friendly little match. My plan here was to use Edward to sweep his whole team, and I really thought I could, but I forgot about one crucial thing. Arven's Greedent loves to paralyze. I defeated the squirrel easily enough, but Toedscruel got the better of me before I could heal. With Edward down, I swapped to Kai and did what I could. Ice Beam against Toedscruel to finish it off, then buff with Nasty Plot and Ice Beam some more. We got past Scovillain, Garganacl, and Cloyster, so now Arven was down to his last Pokemon. I shoot off one more Ice Beam and... whoa! That actually did a lot of damage. I guess I shouldn't be surprised after using Nasty Plot, but, you know, still kind of cool. We just need one more hit and... oh, ow! That Fire Fang almost took us out! Jesus! Ooh. Thankfully, though, Kai's faster than the dog, so one more Ice Beam and Mabostiff is done for. With Arven defeated, we have proved ourselves worthy of Area 0, but before we go, we need to quickly finish off Team Star for good by taking out their leader, Penny. Penny, of course, has a whole team of Evolutions, so this might be a bit of a difficult fight. Having said that, none of them are super effective against Fairy, so actually Actually, maybe not. My plan was to do what I failed to do against Arven, and that's buff the heck out of Edward. I use Calm Mind as many times as I can while Umbreon uses Baby Doll Eyes. Silly Umbreon. I don't even need normal attack damage, just special attack. You imbecile! Anyway, I finally got to the stage where I was happy and the special attacks began. One Draining Kiss for Umbreon, and it's dead. Flareon, you can have an Aura Sphere. Wait, what? It survived on 1 HP? Oh, God. And Flare Blades did so much damage. No. Oh, no. Okay, so Edward is down again. Let's try Eliza. More Baby Doll Eyes. Nice. Well, after using Calm Mind a bunch of times again, we were basically back where we were. Eliza uses Draining Kiss, and yep, Vaporeon is done. Then Jolteon, then Leafeon, and the same goes for Sylveon. Oh, it just feels so good. Now there's one more teeny tiny issue to deal with before we go on to the final battle in the crater. And that is Nemona's nagging. Fine, I'll fight you one last time if you promise to leave me alone. All right. Deal. Here we go. Starting with Match Girl versus Lycanroc. We've been here before. We know how this matchup goes. I buff with Swords Dance and... what? She got a crit right away? Oh. Okay, Match Girl is down. Let's try Gretel. Aqua Tail, go! That's more like it. All right, Lycanroc faints, and now we face Pawmot. Pawmot charges up to use Double Shock, and... Gretel toughed it out. We return with a Play Rough, and that's another Pokemon defeated. Next is Goodra, and by some miracle or some badly designed game mechanic, who knows, Gretel manages to tough out 2 more hits, all while on just 1 HP. And thanks to this, we get past Goodra and do Dunsparce. Honestly, this might be a little broken. Gretel finally goes down against Earthworm, but Edward is ready to get revenge. Now on her last Pokemon, Nemona seems pretty desperate, as I still have 4 team members left. Edward manages to land a Moonblast, which does decent damage, but Meowscarada is faster and Edward falls. Not a problem though, I just send out Izzy, who takes the win with a Shadow Claw. And that's the rivalry over. Leave me alone forever, Nemona. Now it's time to head into Area 0, where we finish this once and for all. Nemona accompanies us as we meet up with Penny and Arven, and then we head inside as a team. We have to fight our way through the spooky and mysterious cave, but it's not long before we're face to face with AI Turo. And this is it. The final battle, starting with Gretel versus Iron Moth. Iron Moth has the higher speed, so I'm immediately hit with a Fiery Dance. Fortunately, it's not very effective at all thanks to my type advantage. I hit back with an Aqua Tail and boom! One shot! Done! Next is Iron Hands, and Play Rough does a ton of damage, but not quite enough. We're hit with the Thunder Punch, and our HP drops to 0. I decide to bring out Match Girl next and begin with the buffs. I can't spend too much time buffing though, since Iron Hands just does so much damage. But we don't even need to. Match Girl is a machine, and the damage she can put out is wild. One Play Rough and Iron Hands goes down. Iron Thorns is next, and I wish I could say he put up a good fight, but yeah. Gigaton Hammer does its thing. Next is Iron Jugulus, which was a scary one. We're hit with the Flamethrower instantly, and yeah, that's super effective, alright. If Play Rough didn't take it out in one hit, we would have been in some serious trouble there. Coming up to the last Pokemon now, we have Iron Bundle, and there he goes. Gigaton Hammer is absolutely broken. And for our final challenge, the last Pokemon we need to beat, it's Iron Valiant. I tried selecting Play Rough, but Iron Valiant was faster. We're hit with a Karate Chop from the heavens, and Match Girl goes down. The next Pokemon I send out is Kai, and this turns out to be a great choice. I start by using Aurora Veil to help us tank some attacks, but it's immediately broken by Brick Break. How does a Karate Chop break this light barrier? What? But that's fine because we don't even need it, as the next attack lands and we manage to tough it out. This lets us land an Ice Beam and almost defeat Iron Valiant. On the next turn, I'm ready to let Kai faint so we can get a free swap, but unbelievably, Kai, who is currently at 1 HP, is hit with a super effective Poison Jab and just thugs it out. Thanks to this weird stroke of fortune, we land one more Ice Beam and Iron Valiant is defeated. And that also means Turo is defeated, and that also means that the world is saved. And now, We let our Miraidon do its thing against evil Miraidon, and we have officially beaten Pokemon Violet using only shiny fairy Pokemon. Challenge complete. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you loved it. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time. Water types are some of the most reliable and versatile Pokemon out there. They've got big boys and little boys and everything in between. The water type is also the most common type, accounting for about 15% of all Pokemon. So how can we make these run-of-the-mill Pokemon more special, you ask? By looking for the most uncommon version of them. Shinies, of course. When it comes to shinies, water Pokemon are some of the most stunning in the entire game. They've got the looks and the strength to back it up. So today I'm diving into a brand new challenge, beating the entirety of Pokemon Violet using only shiny water Pokemon. And because I can't resist making things harder for myself, I'll also be adding in a bunch of extra rules on top just to keep things interesting. Will these sparkling water warriors be enough to overcome the odds? Let's find out. So, as the sun rises on a beautiful new day in Paldea, we wake up from our deep slumber and realize, oh god, I'm gonna be spending the next few weeks of my life hunting for shiny Pokemon. Better get started. Well, I wish I could, but first we have to say our goodbyes to Mom and follow Clavel to get our starter Pokemon. Now, since this is a water type only challenge, obviously I'm going to choose the cutest little duck-billed boy, Quaxly. But since this is also a shiny only challenge, we're not allowed to keep him for very long. At least he can get us through the tutorial section so we can actually start catching some shinies and begin this challenge. So as always, we head to the beach, stumble across a legendary, give it a sandwich, escape the spooky cave of Houndoom, save Penny from some grunts, and have our first day at the academy. Whew! That is quite the tutorial, but now we can finally start hunting for shinies. So I headed south to pick up a few things like this Swift TM and went over to explore these ruins. I continued around the pond a little and then, yep, that's a shiny Psyduck. Yeah, I wasn't even looking properly at this point. We just came across this random encounter. I will most certainly take that. This is genuinely some of the most insane luck I've ever had in a Pokemon challenge run, and yes, of course I caught the little guy. I named our first catch Ken, and wow, take it in, this stunning blue Psyduck. Look at his expression, the way he wobbles. Oh, he is so present. We could all be a little bit more like Psyduck, couldn't we? Live in the moment, folks. Subscribe to the channel. But I'm not stopping at just one Pokemon. I want to catch a Pokemon that I know can be an absolute wrecking machine. It's actually one that I've used in a very similar challenge, the Shiny Fairy Challenge. That's right! I want to catch an Azurill. And unfortunately, I wasn't quite as lucky here. This one took me a while. It was a lot of going back and forth, and considering how long it took, I'm not convinced I didn't drive right past one. I mean, it's a tiny green ball in a field of green grass. It's kind of hard to see. Now, I didn't exactly time this, but after 2 days of roaming while listening to some podcasts, I finally had a wild Azurill hop on over towards me. I caught this sneaky little guy and named him Smolbull, and I think it's pretty fitting. And honestly, this green little shiny Azurill outside of the field of grass does look pretty cool, I'll admit. Now that we had a beautiful party of two, I thought I'd do something a little unusual. I normally save this fight until after I beat a gym or two, but since the Stony Cliff Titan is weak to water types, I thought I'd try taking it on straight away. So I traveled east of Messagoza to fight Cloth, and yeah, to no one's surprise, Ken absolutely demolishes the crab. It only takes a couple of water pulse attacks and the fight is done. But now Miraidon can dash, so that's cool. Next up, I did what I probably should have done a while ago, which is the first gym. The gym challenge was easy, of course. I mean, you just have to roll a big olive around. There's nothing really stopping you or standing in your way, or really any challenge to this at all. But that allowed me to finally face Katie, the bug gym leader. And this was super easy. I mean, it's the first gym. It would be easy, right? Well, actually, no. I lost. Yeah. Just to give you guys an idea of how difficult these runs are, I am getting destroyed by the first gym. Nimble and Tarantula go down easy enough, but man, Teddy Ursa is kind of a bit of a hitter. But of course, I can't just give up here, so I decided to try again. But this time, right before the battle starts, Small Ball learned Bounce, a flying type move that is super effective against these pitiful bug types. All I had to do now was make sure that Small Ball lived to fight the bear and unleash a firestorm upon him from above. One use of Bounce and boom! That's more like it. One final hit and there we go. The first gym badge is ours. Now, the next gym leader we have to face is Brassius, and he's a grass type trainer, which obviously is super effective against water types, so that's not so good for us. I knew here that if we even attempted this battle, it would not go well. I mean, look at our party. Look at these guys. We got a freaking mouse and a duck. Man, we're not gonna be able to beat a tree with a mouse and a duck. So, let's get stronger. First off, by evolving Small Ball. It really didn't take long, thankfully, as our friendship level was already pretty decent at this point. So, after pampering it a little and offering up some vitamins, our little green ball evolved into Meryl. And now we have a big green ball. But when I said we were going to get stronger, I meant it. I didn't want to stop at Meryl since I knew we could easily get the extra few levels that we needed to get an Azumarill. So I fought a few more wild Pokemon and here we are. Pikachu from Wish. Yeah. No, but really, the shiny Azumarill is actually so nice looking. The yellow just stands out so much and it looks great. All right, I think we're in a pretty good position now. Let's take on... Wait! We can get stronger. Let's just, I don't know, catch another shiny, shall we? After just 4 hours of exploring the vast plains, the rocky hills, and the tropical beaches, that's exactly what I did. A shiny Mareanie! Just like that, one of my favorite shiny lines in the entire game. It looks so much better with its pink color scheme versus its normal color. Welcome everyone, Marnie the Mareanie. Her being a poison type as well as water is going to help us out massively against the next gym leader. And at this point, with our party powered up to the max, it was finally time to face one of the greatest challenges in this run, Brassius and his Gracias type Pokemon. A battle where every Pokemon would be super effective against every member of my team if it weren't for Marnie. With her on my team, the fight was a breeze. Petlil and Smoliv couldn't do anything against Venoshock, and the only one who put up a fight at all was Sudowoodo. The ace Pokemon with their terastallizing always give me a bit of trouble, but Marnie did more than enough damage to allow our not-so-small ball to come in and finish the fight. And just like that, Brassius is down and the second gym badge is obtained. So next up is one of the many rival battles with Nemona, and this one was pretty interesting. I had Pokemon that were super effective against hers, but she also had some that were super effective against mine, so this was going to be weirdly easy and weirdly hard at some points. Starting off with Rockruff, who is weak to water attacks, so yeah, easy. Ken manages to win that exchange, but then there's Palmy, an electric type that obviously is super effective against my entire party, and I have nothing to counter it at this point, so things really started going downhill here. First Ken goes down and then Marnie takes a ton of damage, and I basically just had to brute force my way through here. I guess I got lucky though, since Marnie had just enough health left to land one final blow, and then I got double lucky that Nemona's final Pokemon is a fire type, one that is super weak to us. Well, I guess it's not really lucky because she chose the Pokemon after we chose our starter, and it was pretty clear that we were doing a water-only challenge, but that's Nemona's bad. That's not on me, okay? Anyway, that fight could have gone worse. At this point, I was staring down the barrel of another gym leader. One that was probably too hard for us to take on. There was basically no way I was ever going to beat Iono and her electric types with the current setup of our team, so instead I tried taking on a second Titan, the Lurking Steel Titan, Earthworm. Since Steel types are not very effective against water types, I assumed I wouldn't have much difficulty here, so I headed to Area 3 of the East Province and found myself an oversized worm. Hey Earthworm, you met Ken? Well, it looks like neither of us do all that much damage, so it's kind of a battle of attrition, but we have 3 Pokemon and I could do this all day. Ken does go down in phase 1, but does a ton of damage on his own, so Small Ball can easily come in and get us into phase 2. And with Arven helping us out, phase 2 was even easier. Small Ball and Toedscool didn't have any trouble at all. And now at this point, we've taken on some gyms, beaten Nemona, and even a couple of Titans, but there is one group of enemies that we've left alone. So let's fix that. Starting with Team Star's Hakamo. Now, admittedly, I am quite over-leveled here, and like I said, I've kind of been pushing these guys to the side. I really just don't like doing these Team Star fights, I'm gonna be honest. But it's better late than never, and to nobody's surprise, this was really quite easy. Ken took out Pawniard, and then Small Ball handily beat the Starmobile. But because that was so easy, I thought I'd try taking on the second Team Star group. This time, it's Mela's Fire Team. We head into the battle against the leader and started off with Ken, who landed an insanely powerful, super effective Aqua Tail on Torkoal. I mean, look at that damage! Absolutely massive. Anyway, the Sunlight really was a much bigger nerf than I thought it'd be, and surprisingly, Ken does take the L. But our all-reliable Small Ball is up next and ready to finish off Torkoal. And now all that's left is the Starmobile, and at this point, Small Ball is doing more than enough damage to get the win. Mela is defeated, and that's another Team Star group down. Now, before taking on the next gym, which would undeniably be an extremely tough uphill battle, I wanted to catch another Pokemon. This time, I wanted to catch one of the most famous Pokemon of all time. One that probably everybody thinks of when they imagine a powerful water type. Well, kinda. I, of course, am talking about Gyarados. But it'd be pretty difficult to just find and get a shiny one of those, so instead, we're gonna have to get a shiny Magikarp and evolve it. As well as having some really great base stats and being a general powerhouse, Gyarados is also a dual type with its second type being flying. And spoiler alert, that is going to be a huge help in the rest of this run. So I headed to the beach and looked around for several hours, which, side note, I don't even know why I am putting myself through this. And as the hours ticked on, and I looked and looked and looked, I began to question, why do I do this? It takes so long finding even one shiny, and it drains my sanity. And why do I keep making these shiny only videos? Why do I keep putting myself through this mental torment? Am I cursed to just keep repeating the same thing over and over? Do I have to roam these lands for the rest of eternity? Are these shinies even real? Oh, hey, a Magikarp. Okay, I know I say this a bunch, but shiny Magikarp actually is one of my favorites. It's like it's covered in gold leaf. Who doesn't love a gold version of a regular thing? It's so unnecessary, but so awesome. Eventually, our Great Balls overcame the sheer iron will of this flopping fish, and we caught it and named it Mr. Dose. Now, all that was left was to evolve it into Gyarados, and oh my goodness, those red curves, my guy. Woo! So cool. Well, next up is something I've been dreading. It's Iono. And unfortunately for us, while it does resist grass, Gyarados is 4 times weak to electric types because of its secondary flying type. Yeah. We headed over to the city and went into the battle, and it actually went a lot better than I thought it would. Starting off, we have Ken versus Wattrel, and somehow Ken actually manages to outdamage the electric type. I don't really understand how my Psyduck was able to beat a Wattrel, but it does, and that allows me to get in a sneaky attack on Bellibolt for a little extra damage. Once Ken goes down, which was inevitable, I send out Mr. Dose for her debut fight. Sorry that it has to be this one, but it does, Mr. Dose. And there she goes, down in one hit. Fortunately, we have Marnie, who manages to get past Bellibolt and do some pretty decent damage to Luxio. And last in our party, we have the usual carry, Small Ball. We take down Luxio, and then it's Ace versus Ace. Small Ball versus Miss Magus. We trade blows back and forth until we're both down in the yellow, and then, no. We were so close. Look at Miss Magus's health, 1 hit away. Oh. That one was painful. And honestly, I don't have the stomach to try that again, so let's go do another Titan. Now, Bombardier has historically given me a bit of trouble every time I've faced it, so let's see how we do this time. Yeah, we were over-leveled, so we just kind of smack it in the face and move on with our life. Yeah, I won't bore you with this. So at this point, I was really getting the itch to catch another party member, so after how things went against Iono, and based on the fact that we have nothing else to do other than face her, I was really getting the itch to catch another Pokemon. I mean, this is a Pokemon game after all. So I looked to my list of water types and racked my brain trying to think of the perfect Pokemon to catch. And the one I settled on was Weasel. It may not be a dual type, but it is very good at being a water type, and it is one of the strongest that I could get right now. So I explored the beach area around Porto Morinda and found this trio of Weasels. They kind of look adorable like that, like a little family. Look at them, wow. And of course, we profiled them and caught the special one and nicknamed him Gold. Perfect. And while we're at it, we may as well spend some time here leveling him up and evolving him into a Floatzel. So after gaining just one more level off of some wild Pokemon, we now have this awesome looking little guy. He's not too dissimilar from his original form, but that white scarf-like part definitely makes him stand out from the crowd. So fashionable, so fetch. Oh, he's gonna be a champion among the Floatzels, I can feel it. And since we're right here anyway, let's take on Kofu, the water gym leader, who is literally supposed to be after Iono, but is easier for us to do. Isn't that crazy? Iono's so hard, man. And Kofu's kind of a pushover, to be fair. Now, since we're both mainly using water types, this was a bit of a slog. Neither of us could do all that much damage, but I had a bigger party and better Pokemon, so I just slowly whittled his team down until he had none left to fight with, and that's Kofu. A slow and pretty uneventful battle, I'll be honest. But because of this and a few wild battles, Ken was actually ready to evolve into Golduck. Now he's a darker shade of blue compared to his original form, but the power boost we get should be enough to trade off for this awful shiny. And next up was Larry, my best buddy. The 5th gym is a normal type 1, and well, that kind of sums it up, really. I'm not super effective against him, and he's not super effective against me. It was just a normal battle. The size difference between Mr. Dose and Kamala is pretty hilarious to see, but even more hilarious is how Kamala's slam attack looks. Like, how did it flatten Gyarados? He's so big, and that bear is so small. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, Mr. Dose hits back with an Aqua Tail, and the Koala is down. Dunsparce manages to tank one attack, but Ken finishes it off pretty quickly. Of course, with Larry only having 3 Pokemon, he is now down to his last, and there wasn't really anything he could do here. I had the numbers advantage and just chipped away at his Staraptor for the win. With Larry beat, I already had my sights set on the next gym battle, but I couldn't just go straight into it, so I spent about an hour leveling up my party a little. Not too much, just a few levels. But with that done, it is now officially Rhyme time. Now, Rhyme is a ghost type user, and they're weak to dark type attacks, and it just so happens that both Mr. Dose and Marnie have some of those attacks. With that in mind, my plan was to rely pretty heavily on them to do the big damage. Starting off with Mr. Dose, I used Dragon Dance to buffer speed and attack, while Marnie hits with Bite. After buffing for a few turns, I instead start buffing Marnie, and well, these two guys are absolutely overpowered. It was an embarrassing sweep. Banette is taken out first, followed by Houndstone, then Toxtricity, and finally Mimikyu. Overall, a pretty easy one to say the least. Afterwards, we had yet another battle with Nemona, and this kinda went exactly like the last one. Lycanroc wasn't a problem, being weak to water and all, but once again, the electric Palmo caused a bit of trouble. It wasn't anything I couldn't handle, but at some point, we're really gonna need to get a counter, especially for the champion battle. For now, though, I had enough power to just brute force through, and the rest of Nemona's team wasn't really an issue. Alright, on to the next Titan. That, of course, being the Quaking Earth Titan Iron Treads, and, well, I wasn't really worried here since water is super effective against it. I start with Mr. Dose, who lands a few good bites, then swap to Marnie, who finishes Phase 1 with Liquidation. Phase 2 is just as easy since I make it rain and then attack with a crazy powerful Hydro Pump, and now it's time for a real challenge. A battle that I was honestly pretty worried about. It's Team Star Atticus. Now, this may not seem like such a bad fight at first, but man, I was really having trouble here. I must have tried this battle at least 5 times throughout this run, but here we go again. Starting out, we have Mr. Dose, who faces off against Skuntank. Skuntank strikes first with a Sucker Punch, which does not much damage, and I return with the Hurricane that blasts the little skunk away. I go for one more Hurricane, and Skuntank avoided it. How does it avoid an entire Hurricane? That doesn't make any sense. It's fine. It just means we take a tiny bit of extra damage before the next Hurricane destroys it. Next out is Muck, who can't really stand up against the Hydro Pumps, but once again, it avoids my second attack. Why are these Pokemon so slippery? Anyway, I hit with a couple more and Muck finally goes down. Next is a tiny Revavroom, which Mr. Dose once again gets the better of. Man, I don't know why I was struggling so much on the other attempts, probably because I was lower level. Now we're super high level, so it's like easier, right? That's just kind of how it goes in Pokemon. But right as I say that, the Starmobile finally avenges his fallen brethren and Mr. Dose takes a nap for now. But Ken is here to save the day, or steal all the glory. I don't know which, but she gets the job done and Atticus is down. After the fight, we have a nice little chat with Penny until she gives me some crazy side eye, and then I run along to my next destination, the 7th gym, Tulip's gym. With Tulip being a psychic type trainer, there wasn't much I could do to be super effective here, so I just had to use the best available Pokemon at the time. Starting with Marnie, who tries her best but ends up getting defeated by Farigiraf. Fortunately, Gold is here to get revenge and does so with a critical hit, but then is immediately hit with an Energy Ball and goes down for the count. Okay, then I bring out Small Balls, who, geez, that Energy Ball does a lot of damage. Small Ball also faints, and this is looking pretty bad at this point. Okay, let's try Ken and Aqua Tail. There we go, that's more like it. Gardevoir goes down and onto his Pathra, but this is kind of getting close now, and I only have a couple Pokemon left. And now Ken is down as well. Great. Okay, Mr. Dose, it's all up to you. We fire off a bite, and Espathra is down. We just need to beat her ace Florges, and we hit with the bite, which is just not quite enough. And Gyarados is in the red, but maybe we can crit? Oh no, Florges hits first with the Moonblast, and Mr. Dose goes down. But wait, what's this? A secret Golduck that I've had in my party this whole time? Get out there, Kevin! Finish this fight! Kevin uses Hydro Pump and boom! It's all over. Tulip is done. I mean, I obviously had Kevin the whole time, but she hasn't really done anything up to this point, and I kind of forgot about her. But she's undeniably the MVP here. Let's go, Kevin! Whew! That was a close one. And of course, after such an intense moment, Nemona has to come in and ruin it and challenges us to yet another battle. We know how this goes, Nemona. Palmo is your only good Pokemon. But I will say the battle is getting closer and closer every time. I mean, here we lost like half of our party. So we really need to get a counter to that little freaking rat soon, because trying to brute force this battle next time will not go well. But nevertheless, that is another victory, and it's time to face Grusha. We head into the fight and lead with Small Ball, who uses a big fat bounce to get past Frostmoth. Viartic was a little trickier, so I instead started by using Rain Dance to buff my water attacks, then swapped to Mr. Dose for some Hydro Pumps. Water isn't super effective against ice, but thanks to the help of the rain, we managed to do pretty substantial damage. After 2 attacks, Viartic is down and we're on to Satitan. For this guy, I decided to use Gold since ice is not very effective against him, and this let me just slowly out-damage Satitan. And lastly, we have Altaria, who I didn't really have a strategy against, but now it's 4 against 1, so I just used my numbers advantage to whittle Altaria down. And that's Grusha done. So with the 8 gym battles done, it was time to start prepping for the final big battles and the Elite Four. So of course, I wanted to catch another Pokemon. One that would help me against the harder battles like Hassel and Geeta, and the one that I wanted was none other than Cloyster. Having having a Pokemon with some Ice-type attacks will massively help out against any Dragon-type trainers that I need to face. So I traveled on over to Castle Royal Lake, and after a couple of hours, I finally found what I was looking for. Wait, what? A shiny Veluza? I wasn't even looking for that. That is so awesome. Well, obviously I can't pass this thing up, so I catch him and name him Luigi because of his fancy green spikes and not related to any other Luigis in pop culture right now. Wow, that's actually crazy, but I guess one of these Pokemon had to be shiny. So, welcome to the team, Luigi. Luigi is great and all, but we still have a Cloyster to catch, so I once again rode back and forth until I finally spotted that deep blue shell of his. And I think that color actually matches him way better than his usual one. It looks more marine-like, an alien. It just fits the Cloyster vibe more. I like it. And I think the most fitting name for this guy is Dragon Hunter. And at this point, our team is now stacked. So let's test out just how good this team is on a Team Star group. This time, we're facing Ortega. And I'm happy to say that this was a blast. Azumarill's bounce and paralyzing was a little annoying, but it was nothing Marnie couldn't handle. Just a few hits from Venoshock and we're already one Pokemon ahead. Against Wigglytuff, I use Small Ball, who has never, and at this point I'm convinced will never, disappoint me, getting the win out of that 1v1. Doxbun put up a decent effort against Mr. Dose, but I am yet to see anything go toe-to-toe with my Gyarados and come out on top. So Doxbun goes down and we're on to the final challenge, the Starmobile itself. And yeah, this was a little tricky. Mr. Dose got finished off, then Gold got beaten, and we almost lost Dragon Hunter thanks to confusion. But right at the last second, Dragon Hunter pulled out the big guns and secured us the win. We lost a few Pokemon there, but overall, I'm very happy with this team. Next up is the final Titan, the False Dragon Titan Dondozo. And I don't think it would surprise anyone to say this was an easy battle. Mr. Dose alone was enough to get us past Phase 1, then Dragon Hunter took care of the true Dragon Titan Tatsugiri. Nice and easy. Now there's only a couple more loose ends we need to tie up before we can start the big fights of the run. Starting with Aerie of Team Star. So usually Aerie is one of the harder fights in this game, but lucky for us, fighting types are weak to Fairy Flying and Psychic attacks, all of which I have a bunch of on my team. So Mr. Dose, Small Ball, and Veluza are super helpful here. I also use Dragon Hunter to get us through Annihilate and Marnie and Gold to help with the Starmobile, and once Luigi finishes it off, we can now head to Mesagoza and... Oh my god. Oh, why didn't you tell me I forgot about Iono? Oh... Well, since I'm obviously massively overleveled, this was a steamroll. So one of the hardest gyms turned into one of the easiest. Poor Iono. Anyway, as I was saying, we can head to Mesagoza to face off against Clavel, which is kind of awkward, but here we go. Mr. Dose versus Oranguru. I hit first with Thunder and, it's not a lot of damage. That's actually a pretty bad move to have on Gyarados, it turns out. Oranguru hits back with Foul Play and, Oranguru is actually out-damaging Gyarados. It seems there might be a problem with my strategy here. That is not good. Let's try Luigi and his Crunch. That's more like it. Oh, great. He's asleep, and now he's dead. Okay, Marnie, you're up. One hit from Bite, and Oranguru is down. Perfect. But then she falls to Clavel's Gyarados, followed by Mr. Dose, then Small Ball, then Gold, and finally Dragon Hunter. I mean, the first attempt wasn't that bad. We did manage to get to Clavel's final Pokemon, Meowscarada, but it turns out that was actually a really good attempt. One of the best, actually, as I then proceeded to try the battle again and again and again without getting much further. It turns out this is actually one of the hardest battles in this entire run. Maybe the hardest, given the way I was approaching it. I tried over and over with different plans and different strategies over the course of an hour, but nothing I did was working. That was until I started the battle with Luigi. Luigi has the move Crunch, as I mentioned earlier, and since it's the strongest Dark-type move on the team, and Veluza has some really good speed and physical attack, this made getting past Oranguru much easier. Next up is Marnie, who faces off against Abomasnow, since poison attacks are super effective here. I started by using Toxic, which boost the power of Venoshock, and then just went to town. Against Gyarados, I used my own Gyarados who knows Thunder. Seems like a pretty straightforward way to win. And then we stuck with Mr. Dose against Houndoom so I could use Earthquake. For Poltergeist, I actually wanted to swap back to Luigi, but he was asleep, so instead I brought out Gold, who also has Crunch. And then for the final obstacle, the Terra Meowscarada, a true Grass-type terror. Never mind, Dragon Hunter just destroys it with Ice Beam. We're good. Cool. And finally, we have defeated Clavel. I can't show all the attempts here because, retention, YouTube, all that stuff. But believe me, this was rough. But because it was so difficult, it actually made the rest of the run easier. My team was way more balanced now, and I had a much better grasp on their strengths and weaknesses. So with my newfound power, I took on Arven with a very similar plan, and it went incredibly well. I beat his entire party on the very first try, and only lost 2 Pokemon along the way. In fact, a lot of the big battles, which are usually quite difficult, were kind of a breeze. Penny's team of Evolutions is usually a huge pain to deal with, but even this battle was done on the first try. Though to be fair, in the Penny battle, Mr. Dose is kind of OP. Alone, she blasted through Jolteon, Leafeon, Vaporeon, and Flareon, leaving it a 4v1 against Sylveon. And then Gold pretty easily beat Sylveon with Wave Crash, and now with pretty much every battle I could do at this point taken care of, it was finally time to face the Elite Four. And did I mention how strong my party was yet? Because my party is very strong. Every single member of the Elite Four could do nothing against any of my Pokemon. Rika got destroyed, Poppy got obliterated, Larry got gently put to bed with a kiss on the head, and Hassel got embarrassed by Dragon Hunter, as the name would suggest. The closest battle was against Larry, but even then I still had 2 Pokemon left at the end. I know I'm kind of breezing over the entire Elite Four, but really guys, they just didn't stand a chance. But with the Elite Four done, it is time for a real challenge. The whole reason we're here, the battle that could cement me in history as the greatest Pokemon trainer in Paldea. It's time to battle Geeta. So the battle begins, and it's Small Ball versus Espathra. Espathra decides to set up Reflect for some reason, which doesn't help at all since I just use Hydro Pump for the easy KO. Or at least it would, but Espathra is faster, so Small Ball faints. Great, that's not a problem. Espathra is already in the red, so Gold can easily clean up. Against Go-Goat, I swapped to Dragon Hunter so I could make use of the super effective Ice Beams while avoiding the opponent's super effective Grass-type moves. For King Gambit, I swapped to Mr. Dose, and after a lucky evade, we overpower it with Earthquake. So far, so good. Mr. Dose and her Fire Blast was more than enough to take care of Avalugg. Then I used one last Thunder to deal as much damage as I can to Veluza. After fighting 2 Pokemon, Mr. Dose finally goes down, so I have to bring out Marnie, who can finish off Veluza and get us onto the final Pokemon, Geeta's ace, Glimmora. As with all the Pokemon League trainers, she opens by terastallizing her ace, but at this point, it's far too late. I still have 4 Pokemon left, so I can just take my time, slowly chipping away at Glimmora, savoring what will be a long-awaited victory. And with one final Wave Crash, I am crowned Paldea's new champion, and what a journey it has been. But it's not over yet. There is, of course, one final battle that we need to take care of. The one and only Nemona. But you guys already know how these rival battles go. I don't think a single one has given me much trouble in this run, which is a nice change of pace from our usual single type runs. The only major problem on Nemona's team has been Pawmot, but with the addition of Luigi and Mr. Dose, our type coverage, especially with Earthquake, gives us a big advantage. Dunsparce and Goodra are also beaten by Mr. Dose, Orthworm is taken out by Small Ball, and Skeledirge is wiped out by Gold's Wave Crash, and with that final attack, that is officially challenge complete. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.